This is the planet Earth. 8 billion people, thousands of years of civilization. We've split the atom, walked on the moon, sent robots to Mars. Right now, you're listening to these words through technology that would have seemed like magic a century ago. We've built cities that glow from space, networks that connect billions of minds instantly, telescopes that can see almost to the beginning of time itself, and we're screaming into the void. Radio signals leaking into space for over 100 years, television broadcasts, radar pulses, military communications, all of it radiating outward at the speed of light, announcing to anyone listening that we're here. We exist. We're intelligent. Come say hello. But here's the thing that should terrify you. Nobody has answered. Not once. Not ever. The cosmos is silent. You might think that's expected. Space is big, right? Maybe we just haven't waited long enough. But grab a handful of sand from any beach on Earth. Count the grains if you can. For every single grain of sand on all the beaches of our entire planet, there are 10,000 stars in the observable universe. 10,000. That's not a metaphor. That's math. And here's where it gets worse. At least 5% of those stars are similar to our sun. Conservative estimate. That gives us 500 quintillion sun-like stars. A quintillion has 18 zeros. Your brain can't actually comprehend this number, so let me help you. If 1 in 5 of those stars has a planet in the habitable zone, a place where liquid water could exist, you get 100 million billion potentially habitable planets. That's 100,000 billion chances for life to arise somewhere, anywhere in the visible universe. So where is everybody? Why hasn't a single one of those 100,000 billion planets produced a civilization that we can detect? Why are we alone in a cosmos that should be crowded? This is the Fermi Paradox, named after physicist Enrico Fermi, who asked the question during lunch with colleagues in 1950. The question was simple. The implications are absolutely devastating, because every possible answer to Fermi's question is existentially horrifying. Maybe we're alone. Maybe life is so impossibly rare that out of all those quintillions of chances, we're the only ones who made it. That makes us precious, sure, but it also makes us cosmically isolated in a way that should shatter your understanding of existence. Imagine being the only conscious thing in the entire universe, the only eyes watching the stars, the only minds capable of understanding what they're seeing. Everything that matters, everything that can think or feel or create, exists only on this one fragile rock circling an ordinary star in an unremarkable galaxy. Or maybe we're not alone, but we're early. Maybe conditions in the universe only recently became stable enough for complex life to evolve. We're the first kids to show up at the party. That sounds hopeful until you think about what comes next. Being first means massive responsibility. It means every choice we make as a species echoes across cosmic history. The template we set, the civilization we build, the way we spread through space if we ever do, that becomes the model. And right now, looking at ourselves honestly, we're not exactly inspiring candidates for that role. But here's the answer that keeps scientists awake at night. Maybe civilizations arise all the time. Maybe the universe has been full of intelligent species for billions of years, but something kills them, something consistent and universal, a great filter, a barrier so difficult that almost nobody gets through it, and we have no idea where this filter is. Behind us? Ahead of us? The answer determines whether humanity survives the next 1,000 years or joins the cosmic graveyard of failed species. I'm going to tell you something that will change how you think about space forever. There are at least 12 scientific explanations for why we're alone. 12 separate theories, each supported by real physics, each proposed by serious scientists, and every single one of them is terrifying in a different way. Some suggest we're freaks of nature, accidents that shouldn't exist. Others suggest we're being watched by something we can't see. A few suggest we're about to destroy ourselves the same way every other civilization has. Over the next 2 hours, you're going to learn all 12 explanations. You'll understand why finding life on Mars might be the worst possible news for humanity, why some physicists believe the universe is a dark forest where revealing yourself means instant death, why the silence we're hearing might actually be countless civilizations hiding from something we don't yet understand. Your understanding of humanity's place in the cosmos is about to fundamentally change. And I'm not being dramatic. By the end of this, you'll realize that the question, "Are we alone?" isn't academic curiosity. It's the most important question our species has ever asked, because the answer, whatever it is, determines our future, determines whether we have a future. Let me show you why. Let me show you what happens when you really think about the numbers, when you understand what astronomers discovered when they started counting stars and planets, when you realize what it means that we can see evidence of other worlds but can't find any evidence of other minds. The visible universe contains between 10 sextillion and 1 septillion stars. Those are numbers so large they stop having meaning. A sextillion has 21 zeros, a septillion has 24 zeros. If you started counting stars, one per second, never sleeping, never stopping, you would die before reaching 1 billion. Your species would go extinct before reaching 1 trillion. The universe would reach heat death before you counted 1 septillion. But let's make it concrete. Imagine every star is represented by a grain of sand. You'd need a beach the size of Earth to hold all the stars in just one galaxy. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, contains somewhere between 200 and 400 billion stars. And there are an estimated 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe. Multiply those numbers. Go ahead. 200 billion times 2 trillion. That's 400,000 billion stars. 4 followed by 20 zeros. Now here's what we know from actual observations, not speculation. The Kepler Space Telescope surveyed a tiny patch of sky, less than 1% of the visible universe, and found thousands of planets. By extrapolating from that data, astronomers estimate that 20 to 50% of sun-like stars have rocky planets in the habitable zone. Let's be extremely conservative and say only 5%. That still gives us 20 million billion potentially habitable planets in the observable universe. 20 million billion chances for chemistry to become biology, for single cells to become complex organisms, for nervous systems to develop consciousness, for consciousness to develop technology, and we hear nothing, absolutely nothing. No radio signals, no laser pulses, no evidence of megastructures or stellar engineering. No probe has ever visited our solar system. No artifact has ever been found. The sky is full of stars but devoid of voices. This is mathematically insane. Let me put it differently. If even 1 in a million habitable planets develops intelligent life, that's 20 billion civilizations in the observable universe. If even 1 in a million of those survives long enough to develop radio technology, that's 20,000 civilizations that should be detectable. If even 1 in 1,000 of those decides to actively broadcast or travel, we should see dozens or hundreds of obvious signs. But we don't. The silence is perfect, complete. It's not that we're looking in the wrong places or with the wrong instruments. We've been listening with radio telescopes since 1960. We've analyzed millions of signals. Every single one had a natural explanation. Pulsars, quasars, stellar phenomena. Nothing artificial, nothing intelligent, nothing that suggests anyone else is out there thinking, creating, broadcasting. The physicist Carl Sagan once calculated that if a technological civilization lasted just 1 million years and sent out radio signals during that time, we should be able to detect thousands of them with current technology. 1 million years seems like a long time to us, but it's nothing on cosmic scales. Dinosaurs existed for over 150 million years. Sharks have been around for over 400 million. If intelligence has any survival value at all, if being smart helps a species persist, then technological civilizations should last millions of years at minimum. So where are they? Seriously, where are the millions-of-year-old civilizations? Where are the galaxy-spanning empires? Where are the radio signals from species that evolved when Earth was still molten rock? There's a formula for thinking about this. It's called the Drake equation, developed by Frank Drake in 1961. The equation multiplies several factors: the rate of star formation, the fraction with planets, the number of habitable planets per star system, the fraction where life actually arises, the fraction where life becomes intelligent, the fraction that develops detectable technology, and how long that technology persists. When Drake first calculated this, he got numbers suggesting thousands of detectable civilizations just in our galaxy alone. More optimistic astronomers put the number in the millions. Even pessimistic calculations suggested at least dozens. Reality suggests 0. We've checked, we've looked, we've listened, and we've found absolutely nobody. This brings us to something that should make your skin crawl. There's a name for this in astronomy: the Great Silence. Capital G, capital S. It's so profound, so inexplicable, that it gets capitalized like a proper noun. The Great Silence isn't just the absence of signals, it's the absence of any evidence whatsoever of extraterrestrial intelligence, despite overwhelming statistical evidence that such intelligence should exist. Let me give you a sense of scale for what we're dealing with. Our sun is young, very young by cosmic standards. It's about 4.6 billion years old. The universe is 13.8 billion years old. That means the universe existed for over 9 billion years before our sun even formed. 9 billion years when stars were being born, planets were coalescing, life could have been evolving. There are stars in our galaxy that are 10 billion years old, almost as old as the universe itself. Planets orbiting those ancient stars had a 5 billion year head start on Earth. If life evolved there at the same pace it evolved here, those civilizations would be millions or billions of years more advanced than us technologically. Let that sink in. A civilization just 1 million years ahead of us would possess technology we literally cannot imagine. We went from the first powered flight to landing on the moon in 66 years, from the first computers to artificial intelligence in 70 years. What happens after a million years of exponential technological growth? We can't conceive of it. It would be magic to us, indistinguishable from godhood, and that's just 1 million years ahead. What about civilizations 10 million years ahead? 100 million? A billion? If even a tiny fraction of those 20 billion potential civilizations survived long enough to reach that level, they should be obvious, unmistakable. They should have colonized significant portions of the galaxy by now. They should have built structures we can detect across thousands of light years. They should have left calling cards, monuments, probes, something. Instead, we get silence. Perfect, unbroken, maddening silence. Here's where it starts to feel like a horror movie, because that silence has to mean something. Either we're phenomenally alone, a freak occurrence in a sterile universe, or something prevents civilizations from becoming visible. Something stops them, something universal and consistent. Scientists call this hypothetical barrier the Great Filter. Imagine evolution as a series of steps, each one difficult, each one requiring specific conditions. From sterile planet to simple chemistry to self-replicating molecules to single cells to complex cells to multicellular life to intelligence to technology to interstellar civilization. That's a lot of steps. Each one could be a filter where most attempts fail. The question that determines humanity's fate is simple. Where is the Great Filter? Is it behind us, meaning we've already passed the hard steps and we're rare but safe? Or is it ahead of us, meaning something kills nearly every technological civilization before they can spread to the stars? If the filter is behind us, we're alone but we'll survive. We're the lucky winners of a cosmic lottery. If the filter is ahead of us, we're doomed. We're living on borrowed time, approaching a barrier that killed everyone else who tried to cross it. You want to know something that philosophers and scientists have discussed seriously? Finding any form of life beyond Earth, even simple microbial life, would be catastrophic news for humanity, because it would tell us the filter isn't in the early steps of abiogenesis or the evolution of simple life. That would move the filter forward in time, closer to us. Finding complex life, multicellular organisms, would be even worse. It would tell us the filter is definitely ahead, somewhere between complex life and successful spacefaring civilization. If we found ruins of an extinct alien civilization on Mars, some dead city buried under regolith, that would be the absolute worst discovery in human history, because it would prove that technological civilizations arise, and then they die. Always, something kills them, and we're next. This is why some scientists pray we never find evidence of life on Mars or Europa or Titan, not because they're close-minded, not because they don't want aliens to exist, but because the implications of finding life nearby are absolutely dire for our long-term survival. Think about it. If life is common, if it arises easily whenever conditions are right, then the universe should be teeming with it. Billions of years of cosmic history multiplied by billions of planets equals a galaxy full of civilizations. But we see none, which means something kills them. The Great Filter is real, it's ahead of us, and finding life would confirm this nightmare scenario. Stop for a second. Really stop and think about what I just said. We're potentially living in a universe where becoming advanced enough to understand your predicament is the step right before extinction. We're asking, where is everybody? Might be the last question a species ever asks before whatever killed everyone else comes for you too. And here's the truly disturbing part. We've been broadcasting our presence into space for over 100 years. Every radio show, every TV broadcast, every radar pulse, radiating outward at light speed in an expanding sphere now over 200 light-years in diameter. We've essentially been screaming, we're here, we're intelligent, come find us, into the cosmic void. If there's something out there that hunts civilizations, we've been ringing the dinner bell for a century, and we have no idea if that was the biggest mistake in human history. This is where we start. 12 explanations. 12 ways to answer Fermi's question. Some of them suggest we're alone. Some suggest we're not. Some suggest we're in danger. Some suggest we're being protected or watched or studied. Each explanation is based on real science, proposed by credible researchers, and absolutely terrifying in its own unique way. You're going to learn why Stephen Hawking, one of the smartest people who ever lived, warned humanity to stop looking for aliens. You're going to understand why some scientists believe the galaxy operates under rules we don't yet comprehend, rules that make visibility lethal. You're going to see calculations that suggest we might be the last civilization standing in our corner of the universe. And you're going to have to decide what you believe, because this isn't abstract philosophy. This is about survival. This is about whether humanity has a future among the stars, or whether we're approaching a barrier that no one has ever crossed. The silence is real. The question is what it means. Let's find out. In 1950, during a lunch break at Los Alamos National Laboratory, a group of physicists sat around discussing flying saucers. This was the height of UFO mania in America. Reports were coming in weekly about strange lights in the sky, alleged alien encounters, government conspiracies. The conversation was light-hearted, almost joking. These were serious scientists entertaining an absurd topic over sandwiches. Then Enrico Fermi, one of the architects of the atomic bomb, said 4 words that changed how we think about the universe. "But where is everybody?" His colleagues went quiet because they understood instantly what he meant. They'd all seen the numbers. They knew the statistics. If alien civilizations existed, even rarely, we should see evidence of them everywhere. The fact that we didn't was more than just puzzling. It was fundamentally wrong. Fermi did some quick calculations on a napkin, the way physicists do. Even with conservative estimates, he figured there should be thousands or millions of spacefaring civilizations in our galaxy alone, and if any of them had started colonizing other star systems, which seemed inevitable given enough time, they should have reached Earth by now, many times over. The Milky Way is old, ancient, about 13.6 billion years, almost as old as the universe itself. Our sun formed relatively recently, only 4.6 billion years ago. That means there were 9 billion years of cosmic history before Earth even existed. 9 billion years when other solar systems were forming, other planets were cooling, other chemistry was experimenting with life. If you assume that life can emerge wherever conditions are right, and that's what our understanding of chemistry suggests, then billions of planets had billions of years to develop intelligent species. Some of them should have beaten us to the punch by millions or even billions of years. And here's the kicker. You don't need faster-than-light travel to colonize a galaxy. You don't need warp drives or wormholes or any physics we don't already understand. You just need patience and self-replicating robots. Imagine this. A civilization builds a probe about the size of a car. They pack it with manufacturing equipment, artificial intelligence, and instructions. They launch it toward the nearest star system. The journey takes thousands of years at sublight speeds. When it arrives, the probe lands on a suitable planet or asteroid, mines raw materials, and builds copies of itself. Then those copies launch toward other star systems, and so on. This is called a von Neumann probe, named after mathematician John von Neumann, who first described the concept. They're self-replicating machines that could spread through the galaxy exponentially, even traveling at a crawl, just 1% the speed of light. A single von Neumann probe could colonize the entire Milky Way in less than 10 million years. 10 million years sounds like forever to humans. We've only had agriculture for 12,000 years, written language for 5,000, but 10 million years is nothing on cosmic timescales. It's a rounding error, a blink. If any civilization in the last billion years had decided to send out von Neumann probes, those probes should have reached every star system in the galaxy by now, including ours. A team of astronomers at the University of Rochester ran computer simulations of this process. They made extremely conservative assumptions. The probes travel at only 10 kilometers per second, slower than the Voyager spacecraft we built in the 1970s. They can only travel 10 light years before needing to stop and refuel. Each colonized system waits 100,000 years before sending out new probes. That's longer than our entire species has existed, built into the waiting period. Even with these absurdly cautious parameters, the simulation showed complete colonization of the galaxy in less than 1 billion years. You can watch the animation. It starts with a single point of light, then 2, then 4. The expansion looks slow at first, then suddenly the entire galaxy is illuminated, like mold spreading across bread. Inevitable, unstoppable. The Milky Way has been colonizable for billions of years. If even one civilization, just one out of the billions that could have arisen, had sent out self-replicating probes, we would know. We'd see them. We'd find evidence, artifacts, mining operations, megastructures, something. Instead, we've found nothing. Every asteroid we've examined is natural. Every planet we've studied shows no signs of engineering or modification. Every radio signal we've detected has a natural source. The galaxy looks completely untouched by intelligence except for us. This brings us to something called the Kardashev scale, developed by Soviet astronomer Nikolai Kardashev in 1964. It classifies civilizations by their energy consumption and technological capability. There are 3 main types. Type 1 civilizations can harness all the energy available on their planet. They control weather, earthquakes, volcanoes. They can mine the core, tap geothermal sources, capture every photon of sunlight hitting their world. Humanity is close to this. We're currently at about 0.7 on the Kardashev scale, according to most estimates. We can access maybe 10 to the 13th watts of power. A true Type 1 would access 10 to the 16th watts. Type 2 civilizations can harness all the energy output of their star. not just the fraction that hits their planet, but the entire stellar output. We're talking about building megastructures in space, massive collectors that surround the star and capture every erg of radiation. The most famous concept is a Dyson sphere, proposed by physicist Freeman Dyson, a shell of satellites orbiting a star, soaking up its light, converting it to usable energy. A Type 2 civilization would have access to 10 to the 26 watts of power. Type 3 civilizations can harness the energy of an entire galaxy, all the stars, all the black holes, all the available energy in billions of star systems. They would command 10 to the 36 watts of power. We have no idea what such a civilization would look like or what they could accomplish with that much energy. Manipulate space-time, create pocket universes. The possibilities exceed our ability to imagine. Here's the problem. If Type 2 or Type 3 civilizations exist, we should see them. They can't hide. A Dyson sphere would create a distinctive infrared signature visible across thousands of light years. A civilization mining stars for fuel would leave obvious traces. A species engineering on galactic scales would alter the light curves, spectra, and structure of countless star systems. We've used infrared telescopes to scan hundreds of thousands of galaxies looking for anomalous heat signatures. We found some weird ones, galaxies that emit more infrared than expected, but every single one had a natural explanation. Dust, star formation, black holes, no evidence of artificial structures. So either advanced civilizations don't exist, or they don't build Dyson spheres and galactic empires. Both possibilities are strange. Why wouldn't an advanced civilization use all available resources? Why wouldn't they expand? Growth and expansion are fundamental to how we understand life and intelligence. Every organism, every species, every civilization we've ever studied expands to fill available niches until they hit a limit. What limit would stop a technological civilization from spreading through space? Resource scarcity doesn't make sense since space is full of resources. Physics doesn't prevent it, as we've already discussed. What then? Fear, regulation, some galactic law we're unaware of? Let me paint a picture of how fast a motivated civilization could spread. Forget von Neumann probes for a moment. Let's talk about actual biological colonization, people leaving their home world and settling other planets. Even with generation ships, massive vessels that house entire populations for centuries-long journeys, you could colonize the galaxy in less than 50 million years. 50 million years is long by human standards, but compared to the age of the galaxy, trivial. The dinosaurs existed for 150 million years. Sharks have been swimming in Earth's oceans for 400 million years. If intelligence has even a fraction of the staying power of sharks, galactic colonization becomes inevitable, unless something stops it, unless there's a filter, a barrier, something that consistently prevents civilizations from reaching that point. Let me give you a sense of what we're dealing with. Think about all the steps required to go from a sterile rock to a spacefaring civilization. Start with a planet in the habitable zone. You need liquid water, so the planet has to be at the right distance from its star. Too close and water boils away. Too far and it freezes solid. That's step one. Step two is the chemistry of life. You need organic molecules to form spontaneously. Amino acids, nucleotides, lipids. Then those molecules need to assemble into something that can replicate itself, RNA or DNA or some equivalent. This is a biogenesis, life from non-life, and we have no idea how difficult it is because we've only seen it happen once. Here, on Earth, about 3.7 billion years ago. Step 3 is the jump from simple single-celled organisms to complex cells with internal structures, prokaryotes to eukaryotes. This took 2 billion years on Earth. 2 billion years of basically nothing happening, just bacteria floating around in oceans, before the first complex cell evolved. That's a long wait. Maybe it's incredibly difficult. Step 4 is multicellular life. Cells cooperating, specializing, forming tissues and organs and bodies. This happened relatively quickly once eukaryotes existed, at least compared to the previous step. Within a few 100 million years, we had sponges, then worms, then the Cambrian explosion about 540 million years ago, when complex life forms suddenly diversified like crazy. Step 5 is intelligence, brains, nervous systems capable of abstract thought, language, planning. This is where things get really interesting because intelligence doesn't seem to be an inevitable outcome of evolution. Most species get by just fine without it. Trees have survived hundreds of millions of years without brains, so have jellyfish, barnacles, and countless other successful organisms. Intelligence is expensive. Brains consume massive amounts of energy. The human brain is about 2% of body weight, but uses 20% of our calories. That's a huge overhead cost. Evolution only favors intelligence if the benefits outweigh those costs. And for most species, they don't. Being smart doesn't help you survive if you're a tree or a clam. Even among animals with brains, very few develop human-level intelligence. Dinosaurs ruled Earth for 150 million years and never evolved anything close to human cognition. Plenty of mammal species have existed for millions of years without developing tool use or language. Intelligence might be a fluke, an accident that happened once on Earth and maybe nowhere else. Step 6 is technology, fire, agriculture, writing, mathematics, science, the ability to pass knowledge between generations and build on previous discoveries. Humans have had this for maybe 10,000 years, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, and we nearly wiped ourselves out multiple times already with wars, plagues, environmental destruction. Step 7 is spacefaring capability. Rockets, satellites, the ability to leave your planet and establish a presence in space. We've barely started this step. We've sent 12 people to walk on the moon. We have a space station in orbit. We've landed robots on Mars. That's it. We're nowhere close to being a true spacefaring civilization. Step 8 would be interstellar travel, actually leaving your solar system and reaching other stars. We haven't even attempted this yet. Our fastest spacecraft, Voyager 1, is traveling at about 60,000 kilometers per hour and will take 70,000 years to reach the nearest star, assuming it was pointed in the right direction, which it isn't. Step 9 is colonization, establishing self-sustaining settlements on other worlds, building the infrastructure to support populations, economies, and cultures light years from your home planet. This requires solving problems we can barely conceive of: closed-loop life support, radiation shielding, genetic diversity, social cohesion across generations of isolation. Step 10 is becoming a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization, harnessing stellar or galactic energy, spreading through space on scales that make you visible and obvious to anyone looking. This is where you stop being a fragile species clinging to one planet and become something permanent, something that leaves marks on the cosmos. Now here's the nightmare scenario. What if there's a great filter somewhere in those steps? A barrier so difficult that almost no one gets through it. And what if we haven't reached it yet? Think about how many things have to go right. Chemistry has to become biology. Biology has to become complexity. Complexity has to become intelligence. Intelligence has to develop technology. Technology has to survive its own dangers long enough to reach the stars. Any one of those steps could be the filter where most attempts fail. The philosopher Nick Bostrom at Oxford University wrote a paper about this that should be required reading for every human. He argued that the absence of extraterrestrial life, what he calls the Great Silence, should actually fill us with existential dread, because it suggests the filter is real and we don't know where it is. If the filter is early, in steps 1 through 3, then we're incredibly rare but probably safe. We've already passed the hard part. Life arising at all or becoming complex was the miracle. Everything after that is relatively straightforward. This makes us special, precious, the only minds in the universe capable of understanding it. But if the filter is late, in steps 7 through 10, then we're in trouble. Because that means technological civilizations arise regularly, but then destroy themselves or get destroyed before they can spread. And we're a technological civilization. We're approaching the filter. We might already be at it, Bostrom put it bluntly. No news is good news. If we never find evidence of extraterrestrial life, even simple microbial life, that's the best possible outcome for humanity, because it means the filter is probably behind us. We're alone, but we'll survive. Finding simple life on Mars or Europa would be bad news. It would tell us that abiogenesis is easy, that life emerges whenever conditions permit. That moves the filter forward to later steps. Maybe the jump to complex cells is the bottleneck. Maybe intelligence is incredibly rare. These aren't comforting thoughts, but they're better than the alternative. Finding complex life, multicellular organisms on another world, would be worse. It would confirm that steps 1 through 4 are routine. The filter must be in intelligence, technology, or spacefaring capability. We'd know that something ahead of us kills civilizations. But the worst possible discovery, the scenario that should make us pray we never find it, would be ruins. Evidence of an extinct alien civilization, a dead city on Mars, fossils of a technological species on an exoplanet, because that would prove beyond doubt that civilizations arise, develop technology, and then die. The filter is ahead, and it's deadly. You see why this matters now? Why scientists argue about this? The Fermi Paradox isn't just an interesting puzzle, it's a diagnostic test for our own survival. The silence we're hearing is data, and depending on how we interpret that data, we're either alone and safe, or we're next in line for extinction. I was 8 years old when I first learned about the Fermi Paradox. I was reading a book about space, one of those illustrated kids' books with glossy pictures of planets and nebulae. There was a page about the Drake equation and the possibility of alien life. The author explained how many stars exist, how many planets, how many chances for life. Then in the last paragraph, almost as an afterthought, they mentioned that we'd never detected any aliens despite decades of searching. I remember crying, genuinely sobbing. My parents found me curled up in my room, the book open to that page, tears streaming down my face. They asked what was wrong. I told them we were alone. We were the only ones in the whole universe. Everything was empty except for us. My parents didn't know what to say. They tried to comfort me, told me we didn't know for sure, that maybe aliens existed and we just hadn't found them yet. But I'd read the numbers. I understood, even as a child, that the math didn't add up. If aliens existed in any reasonable abundance, We should have found them by now. The fact that we hadn't meant something was deeply wrong with our assumptions. I'm 30 now. I've spent years studying this question, reading papers, talking to astronomers and physicists, trying to understand why the universe is silent. And you know what? I still don't have an answer. Nobody does. The smartest people on Earth have been thinking about this for 70 years, and we still can't explain the great silence. But I've learned something important. The question of where everybody is has 12 major answers, 12 scientific hypotheses that attempt to explain the paradox. Some suggest the filter is behind us and we're rare. Some suggest the filter is ahead and we're doomed. Some suggest there is no filter, just circumstances we don't understand yet. Over the next 100 minutes, I'm going to walk you through all 12 explanations. Some will give you hope, some will terrify you. All of them are based on real science, real physics, real observations, and by the end, you'll understand why this is the most important question humanity has ever asked. Because here's the truth. We're standing at a crossroads. We have the technology to destroy ourselves. Nuclear weapons, biological weapons, artificial intelligence, climate change. We also have the potential to become something greater, to spread through the solar system, and eventually to the stars. Which path we take determines not just our future, but potentially the future of intelligence in the entire universe. If we're alone, if we're the only minds capable of understanding the cosmos, then our survival matters on a scale that's almost unbearable to think about. We're the universe's only chance to know itself. If we fail, consciousness ends forever. The stars continue burning, galaxies continue colliding, but there's nobody watching, nobody caring, nobody creating meaning. If we're not alone, if the silence has a different explanation, then we need to understand what that explanation is before we make irreversible mistakes, before we broadcast too loudly, before we attract attention we're not ready to handle. Either way, the stakes couldn't be higher. So let's begin. Let's explore why we're alone, or why we think we're alone, and what it means for our species. The first explanation starts with the most fundamental question. How hard is it for life to begin at all? How difficult is that very first step, from chemistry to biology, from molecules to metabolism? Turns out we have no idea, and that uncertainty might be the most important thing you learn today. Picture a ladder rising from the ground into the clouds. 10 rungs. At the bottom is a dead planet, sterile and lifeless. At the top is a galactic civilization spanning thousands of star systems. Between those 2 points are all the steps evolution needs to climb. Simple chemistry, self-replicating molecules, single cells, complex cells, multicellular organisms, intelligence, technology, spaceflight, interstellar travel, galactic colonization. Now imagine that under one of those rungs is a pit filled with acid, deep, lethal. Out of a billion attempts to climb this ladder, maybe one makes it past that poisoned step. The rest fall and dissolve. This is the great filter, and we have no idea which rung has the pit underneath it. If the filter is behind us, somewhere in those early steps, we're miracles. 1 in a billion accidents that somehow made it through. We're alone in the galaxy, possibly the entire universe, but we're safe. We've already won the cosmic lottery. If the filter is ahead of us, we're standing on a normal rung looking up at the poisoned step we haven't reached yet. And every civilization before us fell when they got there. We'll fall too, unless we figure out what the filter is and how to survive it. So let me ask you something. Close your eyes for 5 seconds. Actually do this. Close your eyes and imagine you're the only intelligent being in the entire Milky Way. 400 billion stars, maybe 100 billion planets. And you're it, the only mind, the only consciousness, the only thing in this entire galaxy that can look up at the sky and wonder what it means. How does that feel? Lonely? Terrifying? Liberating? All of the above? Because that might be our reality. And if we're going to understand why, we need to start at the very beginning, the first rung of the ladder, the moment when chemistry became biology. Life on Earth appeared surprisingly fast. The planet formed about 4.5 billion years ago. For the first 700 million years, Earth was hell, literally. Molten rock, asteroid bombardments, volcanic eruptions that made Pompeii look like a birthday candle. The entire surface was uninhabitable. Then around 3.8 billion years ago, things cooled down enough for liquid water to exist. Oceans formed, and almost immediately, within maybe 100 million years, life appeared. We know this from fossils, chemical signatures in ancient rocks. Stromatolites, layered structures built by bacterial communities, dating back 3.7 billion years. Life arose so quickly after Earth became habitable that some scientists think it's easy, almost inevitable. Put water and organic molecules together under the right conditions and boom, life emerges. But here's the problem. We've been trying to recreate a biogenesis in laboratories for over 70 years, and we've never succeeded, ever. The most famous attempt was the Miller-Urey experiment in 1953. Stanley Miller was a graduate student at the University of Chicago, working working under chemist Harold Urey, they built an apparatus designed to simulate early Earth conditions. A glass flask with water to represent the ocean, a mixture of gases, methane, ammonia, hydrogen, water vapor to represent the atmosphere, electric sparks to simulate lightning. They let it run for a week. When they analyzed the results, they found amino acids, the building blocks of proteins. The experiment was revolutionary. It suggested that organic molecules could form spontaneously from simple chemicals given energy input. Maybe life wasn't a miracle. Maybe it was just chemistry doing what chemistry does. But there's a massive gap between amino acids and life. Amino acids are ingredients. Life is the finished meal. You need those amino acids to link together into proteins with specific shapes and functions. You need nucleotides to form RNA or DNA. You need lipids to form cell membranes. And somehow all of these components need to assemble into a self-replicating system capable of evolution. We have no idea how this happened. None. We have hypotheses, sure. The RNA world hypothesis suggests that RNA came first, acting as both genetic material and catalytic enzymes. Metabolism first theories propose that self-sustaining chemical cycles preceded genetics. Hydrothermal vent theories suggest life began in deep ocean vents, where hot, mineral-rich water provided energy and nutrients. But these are guesses, educated guesses based on chemistry and biology, but still guesses. We haven't found a plausible pathway from non-life to life that we can demonstrate in a lab. We can make amino acids, sure. We can even make some nucleotides under the right conditions. But we can't make anything that replicates, anything that evolves, anything that's actually alive. This means one of two things. Either we're missing something fundamental about how abiogenesis works, some key insight that would make it seem obvious once we figure it out, or abiogenesis is genuinely difficult, rare, something that requires incredibly specific conditions and massive amounts of time and luck. If life is hard to start, that could be the great filter. Out of a billion sterile planets with liquid water, maybe only one ever sparks life. That would explain why we haven't found anyone else. The galaxy is full of dead worlds, where chemistry never quite made the leap to biology, where molecules bounced around in oceans for billions of years and never organized into anything alive. And we're the fluke, the one place where everything aligned perfectly. The right planet, the right chemistry, the right sequence of events, however long and improbable that sequence was. Let me give you a sense of how improbable this could be. Think about what needs to happen at the molecular level. You need a molecule that can store information. That's your genetic material, DNA, RNA, or something similar. This molecule needs to be stable enough to preserve information, but reactive enough to undergo chemistry. Already we're dealing with a narrow range of conditions. Then you need a way to copy that molecule. DNA doesn't copy itself. You need enzymes, protein machines that unzip the double helix and build complementary strands. But proteins are encoded by DNA. So which came first, the information or the machinery to read it? This is the chicken and egg problem of abiogenesis. The RNA world hypothesis tries to solve this by proposing RNA did both jobs initially. RNA can store information like DNA and catalyze reactions like proteins. There are RNA molecules called ribozymes that cut and splice other RNA molecules. So maybe early life was RNA-based, self-replicating ribozymes competing and evolving until eventually they invented proteins and DNA. But even this requires a lot of luck. You need the right ribozyme to form spontaneously. You need it to replicate faster than it falls apart. You need mutations to occur, but not so many that the information degrades. You need all of this to happen in an environment that's simultaneously stable enough for chemistry, but dynamic enough for evolution. And here's the thing that keeps me up at night. We've been trying to create self-replicating RNA in labs. We've synthesized ribozymes. We've created RNA molecules that can catalyze their own replication under very specific conditions. But we've never seen spontaneous emergence of an RNA replicator from a mixture of simple molecules. We've never witnessed chemistry cross the boundary into life, even when we stack the deck in its favor. Maybe we're just not smart enough yet. Maybe we need better experiments, better simulations, a deeper understanding of prebiotic chemistry, or maybe what happened on Earth 3.7 billion years ago was genuinely miraculous. A 1 in a trillion event that took hundreds of millions of years of random molecular collisions before it finally worked once. If that's true, we're alone, profoundly, cosmically alone, because even if there are billions of habitable planets, if abiogenesis only succeeds one time out of a trillion tries, most of those planets stay dead. Oceans full of organic molecules that never quite figure out how to come alive. But wait, maybe the filter isn't abiogenesis. Maybe life starts easily, and we just haven't figured out how yet. Maybe the real bottleneck comes later, after life exists, but before it becomes complex. For 2 billion years, life on Earth was boring, spectacularly boring. Single-celled bacteria floating in oceans. That's it, for 2 billion years, half the age of the planet, longer than all of Earth's subsequent history from the first animals to now. Think about that, 2 billion years of just bacteria, no plants, no animals, no fungi, nothing you could see with the naked eye, just microscopic cells doing microscopic things, eating, reproducing, evolving, sure, but only in subtle ways, different metabolisms, different chemical tricks, nothing that fundamentally changed what they were. Then about 2 billion years ago, something happened, a revolution, one of the most important events in the history of life. A prokaryotic cell, simple and small, somehow engulfed another prokaryotic cell, and instead of digesting it, instead of breaking it down for nutrients, the first cell kept the second one alive. This was the origin of eukaryotic cells, complex cells with internal structures. The engulfed cell became a mitochondrion, the powerhouse of the cell, converting sugar and oxygen into ATP. This gave the host cell a massive energy advantage. Eukaryotic cells can do things prokaryotic cells can't. They can grow larger, they can form complex internal structures. They can eventually cooperate into multicellular organisms. Every complex life form on Earth is made of eukaryotic cells, plants, animals, fungi, protists, all of us. Inside every cell of your body right now are mitochondria, the descendants of that ancient bacterial merger 2 billion years ago. They still have their own DNA, separate from your nuclear DNA. They reproduce independently. They're living fossils of the most important symbiosis in Earth's history. But here's the disturbing question. How likely was this event? How often does one cell successfully engulf another without destroying it? How often does that relationship become permanent and beneficial? Biologist Nick Lane at University College London has argued that the jump from prokaryotes to eukaryotes was probably a singular event. It happened once in Earth's entire history, and never again. We've never observed it happening in nature. We've never replicated it in a lab. Prokaryotes have existed for over 3.5 billion years, and only made this leap once. If that's true, if the origin of complex cells was a one-time fluke, that's a strong candidate for the Great Filter. Maybe the universe is full of bacteria, oceans on Europa, subsurface lakes on Enceladus, ancient seabeds on Mars, all teeming with simple single-celled life. But none of them ever take the next step. None of them ever become complex enough to build bodies, develop brains, create technology. We would be the only exception, the only planet where two cells merged in just the right way at just the right time. And everything that came after, all the complexity and diversity of Earth's biosphere, all of human civilization, traces back to that one unlikely event 2 billion years ago. Pause for a second. This is important. Right now, in your body, roughly 37 trillion cells are working together to keep you alive. Each one contains dozens or hundreds of mitochondria. That means you personally harbor quadrillions of these former bacteria, domesticated 2 billion years ago, still churning out energy for your benefit. You are a colony, a walking ecosystem, and every human who has ever lived, every animal, every plant, every mushroom, all of us are descendants of a merger that might happen only once per planet, ever. If the Great Filter is the prokaryote to eukaryote transition, then we've already passed it. We're safe. The hard part is over. Everything after this point, multicellular life, brains, technology, that's all relatively straightforward once you have complex cells as a foundation. We're rare as hell, maybe the only complex life in the Milky Way, but we'll survive. We'll reach the stars eventually. We've already won. But what if the filter isn't there either? What if complex cells are rare, but not impossibly rare? What if the real bottleneck is intelligence itself? Here's something most people don't realize. Intelligence is not the goal of evolution. Evolution has no goal. Organisms evolve traits that help them survive and reproduce in their specific environment. Sometimes that means getting faster. Sometimes it means developing camouflage. Sometimes it means becoming smaller or larger, or more efficient at digesting certain foods. Intelligence is just one possible adaptation, and for most organisms it's a terrible one. Brains are expensive, metabolically, energetically expensive. The human brain represents about 2% of body weight, but consumes roughly 20% of our resting caloric intake. 20%, that's an enormous overhead. You need to eat a lot to power that 3-pound lump of neurons between your ears. In evolutionary terms, intelligence only makes sense if the benefits outweigh the costs. You need to be in an environment where being smart helps you survive and reproduce better than alternatives. For most organisms, that's never true. Trees do fine without brains. Jellyfish have thrived for hundreds of millions of years with nerve nets instead of centralized nervous systems. Barnacles cement themselves to rocks and filter feed for their entire adult lives with basically no behavioral flexibility, and they're successful. Evolutionary success means surviving and passing on genes. By that measure, jellyfish are way more successful than humans. They've been around for at least 500 million years, and they're found in every ocean. Humans have existed for maybe 300,000 years, and we're already facing existential risks from our own technology. Even among animals with complex brains, very few develop anything approaching human-level intelligence. Dinosaurs dominated Earth for over 150 million years. Thousands of species, huge diversity of body forms and ecological niches. Some of them had relatively large brains for their body size. Some were social and potentially used complex behaviors. But none of them ever developed language or tool use beyond the most rudimentary level. None of them started fires or built structures or asked questions about the stars. They were successful without intelligence. They didn't need it. And when the asteroid hit 66 million years ago, being smart wouldn't have saved them anyway. After the dinosaurs went extinct, mammals diversified and took over. Again, thousands of species, millions of years of evolution. Most mammal lineages never develop human-level cognition. Rodents are brilliantly successful with relatively simple brains. Whales and dolphins have large brains and complex social behaviors but never develop technology because they don't have hands and can't make fire underwater. Elephants are incredibly intelligent, possibly self-aware, but their intelligence is adapted to their specific needs and environment. Humans are a weird outlier. Our intelligence seems to have arisen through a specific sequence of evolutionary pressures related to social competition, tool use, and language. We're not the end point of some inevitable progression. We're an accident, a contingent outcome of circumstances that could easily have gone differently. Steven Pinker, cognitive scientist at Harvard, wrote about this in his book on the history of violence. He argued that there's no evolutionary drive toward human-like intelligence. The fact that it happened once on Earth after 3.5 billion years of life doesn't make it inevitable. It makes it unlikely, a path that evolution explored on this planet under these specific conditions but might never explore elsewhere. If intelligence is the great filter, that's actually somewhat comforting. It means life is probably common, simple life, maybe even complex multicellular life. The galaxy could be full of planets with bacterial mats, algae, maybe even primitive animals. But none of them are asking where everybody is because none of them have the cognitive capacity to ask questions. We're the freaks, the species that got too smart for our own good, smart enough to build nuclear weapons and create climate change, smart enough to worry about artificial intelligence and bioengineered pandemics, smart enough to recognize our own fragility. And maybe every time intelligence arises, it creates the same problems. Powerful technology without the wisdom to use it safely. Growth that outpaces sustainability. Competition that leads to self-destruction. Maybe intelligence is inherently unstable on evolutionary timescales. A brief flash that burns out within thousands or tens of thousands of years after it appears. If that's true, the galaxy might be littered with ruins, dead civilizations that rose, developed radio, maybe even reached their own moons, and then destroyed themselves, not because they were evil or stupid, just because intelligence creates challenges that intelligence can't always solve. That would explain the silence. We're not hearing anyone because civilizations don't last long enough to make themselves obvious. By the time they develop the technology to broadcast, they're only decades or centuries away from collapse. The window where they're both advanced enough to be detectable and still alive enough to be broadcasting is tiny, cosmically tiny. Blink and you miss it, and we're in that window right now. We've been broadcasting since the 1920s. Radio, television, radar, all leaking into space. We've had nuclear weapons since 1945. We've had the ability to end human civilization for 80 years. We've been flirting with our own extinction for less than a century. How much longer do we have? 1,000 years? 10,000? Before we either solve these problems and become stable, or we solve them permanently by no longer existing. The mathematician and science fiction author Vernor Vinge called this the singularity, the point where technological change becomes so rapid that human society transforms in unpredictable ways. Maybe that transformation leads to a stable post-human future, or maybe it leads to extinction. We don't know yet because we haven't reached the singularity. We're approaching it, and maybe everyone else who approached it died there. Maybe the singularity is the great filter, the moment when a civilization's technology becomes powerful enough to destroy it, and the wisdom to control that technology never quite catches up. 100,000 species might have reached this point, advanced, curious, on the verge of spreading through space, and every single one of them stumbled, made one mistake, deployed one technology they couldn't control, and ceased to exist. That would explain why we don't see ancient civilizations, why there are no galaxy-spanning empires, why the stars are silent. Everyone who got as far as we have either stopped broadcasting for reasons we don't understand, or they're not broadcasting because they're dead. So which is it? Is the great filter behind us in the chemistry of abiogenesis, in the unlikely merger that created complex cells, in the rare accident of intelligence? Or is it ahead of us in the technologies we're developing right now? I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know. Nobody knows. We have 12 explanations, and none of them are certain. But here's what we do know. If the filter is behind us, finding life elsewhere, even simple microbial life, would be bad news. Every discovery pushes the filter forward toward our future. And if the filter is ahead of us, we need to figure out what it is before we reach it. Because right now, we're climbing the ladder. We're developing artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, nanotechnology, quantum computing. We're approaching capabilities that could reshape Earth or destroy it, and we have no idea if these technologies represent rungs we can safely step on, or if one of them has the acid pit underneath. What we do know is that silence surrounds us. No signals from the stars. No evidence of anyone else climbing this ladder. Either they're not there, or they fell, or they're hiding. And in the next sections, we're going to explore why they might be hiding, why civilizations that do survive might choose silence, why the galaxy might be full of whisperers afraid to speak too loud, because there's another explanation for the great silence. Maybe everyone else figured something out that we haven't. Maybe they learned that broadcasting your existence is dangerous, that the cosmos isn't empty, it's full of things that listen for signs of life. And when they hear those signs, they come. Maybe the problem isn't that life is rare. Maybe the problem is we're early to the party, the first guests to arrive. The universe threw a celebration 13.8 billion years ago, and we showed up thinking we were late, only to find the place empty. Here's what we know about cosmic history. The Big Bang happened. Space expanded. For about 380,000 years, the universe was too hot for atoms to form, just a soup of plasma and radiation. Then it cooled enough for hydrogen and helium to condense. Stars began forming a few hundred million years after that. But those first stars were different from our sun. They formed from pristine hydrogen and helium, nothing else. No carbon, no oxygen, no iron, no silicon, none of the elements necessary for rocky planets or organic chemistry. Those heavier elements didn't exist yet. They had to be forged inside stars through nuclear fusion, then scattered into space when those stars exploded as supernovae. This process takes time. Multiple generations of stars living and dying, each one creating heavier elements, each supernova seeding the galaxy with the raw materials for planets and life. Our sun is a third-generation star at minimum, probably later. It formed from a cloud of gas and dust that contained all the elements we see today because earlier stars had already done the work of creating them. The very oldest rocky planets in the universe are maybe 11 billion years old. Earth is 4.5 billion. That means there's a 6.5 billion year window when other planets could have formed, cooled, developed life, and evolved intelligence before Earth even existed. 6.5 billion years. Life on Earth went from single cells to human civilization in about 3.5 billion years. If another planet started even 1 billion years before us, they'd have a 1 billion year technological head start. Can you imagine what human civilization will look like in 1 billion years? I can't. Nobody can. The difference between us and them would be incomprehensible. So where are these ancient civilizations? Where are the precursors, the forerunners, the elder races that should have colonized the galaxy billions of years ago? Maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're actually early. Maybe the conditions necessary for complex life only recently became common enough for intelligence to arise. There's evidence for this, real evidence based on astronomy and chemistry. The universe went through phases. Early on, it was violent and chaotic. Stars were forming and exploding at tremendous rates. Gamma-ray bursts, the most energetic explosions since the Big Bang, were far more common billions of years ago than they are now. A gamma-ray burst happens when a massive star collapses into a black hole, or when two neutron stars collide. For a few seconds, the explosion releases more energy than the sun will produce in its entire 10 billion year lifetime, and it channels that energy into two narrow beams, like cosmic searchlights sweeping through space. If one of those beams hits your planet, even from thousands of light years away, you're in trouble. The radiation would strip away the ozone layer within seconds. Ultraviolet light from your sun, no longer filtered, would sterilize the surface. Anything alive on land would die. Ocean life might survive in deep water, but the damage to the biosphere would be catastrophic. We know this happened at least once on Earth. About 440 million years ago, during the Ordovician period, there was a mass extinction event that killed off about 85% of marine species. Some scientists think a gamma-ray burst might have been responsible. The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. The pattern of extinction fits what you'd expect from sudden ozone depletion. Now imagine this happening regularly. Every few million years, a gamma-ray burst wipes out complex life on every planet within a few thousand light years. Life could start, sure, simple organisms could persist, but anytime complexity began to develop, boom, reset. The galaxy becomes a cosmic shooting gallery where evolution keeps getting interrupted before it can produce intelligence. But here's the key point. Gamma-ray bursts are getting rarer. Star formation in the Milky Way peaked about 10 billion years ago and has been declining ever since. Fewer new stars means fewer massive stars. Fewer massive stars means fewer supernovae and gamma-ray bursts. The galaxy is settling down, maturing, becoming safer for complex life. There's a graph astronomers made showing gamma-ray burst frequency over cosmic time. It looks like a curve that peaks around 10 billion years ago and drops sharply toward the present. We might be living in the first era when the galaxy has been stable long enough for intelligence to evolve without getting blasted back to microbial basics every few million years. If that's true, we're among the first civilizations to arise in a relatively safe galaxy. The silence we're hearing is because most other planets are still in their Cambrian period or equivalent. Fish and trilobites, not philosophers and engineers. Give them another few hundred million years and the galaxy will start to get crowded. This is actually hopeful. It means we're not doomed. We're not approaching a great filter that kills everyone. We're just pioneers, the first kids to evolve in a neighborhood that was too rough for children until recently. But there's a flip side to being first, a responsibility that's almost crushing if you think about it too hard. Because we're setting the template, the choices we make, the civilizational path we follow, the ethics we develop, all of that becomes the model for everyone who comes after us. We're writing the first chapter of galactic history, and right now, looking at ourselves honestly, we're not exactly inspiring. Wars, environmental destruction, political dysfunction, the threat of nuclear annihilation, or runaway AI. We're a mess. We're a species barely clinging to survival, despite having all the technology and resources we need to thrive. If we're the best the galaxy has produced so far, maybe everyone who comes after us looks at our history and thinks, well, at least we can do better than that. We become the cautionary tale, the rough draft that later civilizations learn from. Or maybe we figure it out. Maybe we're going through a turbulent adolescence, but we'll mature into something stable and wise. Maybe in 1,000 years or 10,000 years, humans or our descendants will look back on the 21st century and marvel that we survived it. And we'll take our hard-won wisdom out into the galaxy and help the next wave of civilizations avoid our mistakes. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night. Being first means we have no guidance, no one to learn from, no elder species to warn us about dangers we haven't recognized yet. We're writing the instruction manual as we go, hoping we don't include any fatal errors. Every technological civilization probably faces similar challenges: how to manage powerful weapons, how to handle artificial intelligence, how to balance growth with sustainability. But if we're first, we face those challenges alone. No one can tell us what works and what leads to extinction because no one has been here before. That's simultaneously terrifying and oddly beautiful. We're not following a path, we're making one. Every choice matters because it echoes forward through time. If we become a galactic civilization, future species will study our history the way we study ancient Rome or Egypt. The precedents we set might persist for billions of years. Okay, let's say we're not first. Let's say there are other civilizations out there, already advanced, already spreading through the galaxy, but we don't see them. Why not? Here's a possibility that sounds almost offensive in how simple it is. Maybe we're just too primitive to notice. Maybe they're all around us, and we're too blind to recognize what we're looking at. Think about this. A tribe living in the Amazon rainforest, isolated from modern civilization, has no concept of satellites. You could tell them there are metal objects orbiting Earth, watching and communicating, and they'd have no framework to understand what you mean. The satellites are real. They're right there, passing over the rainforest dozens of times a day. But from the tribe's perspective, they're invisible, undetectable, beyond imagination. Now scale that up. We're the tribe. And advanced alien civilizations are so far beyond us that we literally can't perceive what they're doing, even if it's happening right in front of us. Carl Sagan made this point in his novel Contact. He asked whether ants could understand a freeway. The highway is huge, obvious, impossible to miss. Millions of ants probably cross highways every day. But do they understand what it is? Do they recognize it as a designed structure built by intelligent beings? Or is it just part of the landscape, a weird hot stripe of rock that shows up sometimes? We might be the ants. Radio telescopes are our antennae, wiggling around, trying to sense patterns in the cosmic noise. And meanwhile, advanced civilizations are conducting their business using physics we haven't discovered yet: quantum entanglement communication, manipulation of dark matter, engineering on scales or dimensions we can't perceive. They could be everywhere. Their technology could be as obvious as a freeway. But we're scanning for radio signals and optical lasers because that's the limit of our imagination. We're looking for them to communicate the way we communicate, using the tools we understand. And they moved past that 10 million years ago. Here's a concrete example. We think of communication as sending information through space, radio waves, laser beams, whatever. There's a transmitter and a receiver, and something travels between them at the speed of light or slower. But quantum entanglement offers a different possibility. Two particles can be entangled such that measuring one instantly affects the other, regardless of distance. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, and hated it because it seemed to violate relativity. But experiments have proven it's real. Entanglement is a feature of quantum mechanics, not a bug. Now, you can't use entanglement to send information faster than light with current technology. The details of why are complicated, but basically you need a classical communication channel to make sense of the quantum correlations. So entanglement alone doesn't let you break physics. But we're primitives. We've only known about quantum mechanics for a century. An advanced civilization might have figured out how to use entanglement in ways we can't imagine. Maybe they've found a loophole, a method of encoding information in quantum correlations that doesn't require a classical channel. Or maybe they use entanglement for something we haven't even conceived of yet. If they're communicating via quantum entanglement, we wouldn't detect anything. No electromagnetic radiation, no particles traveling through space. The information appears instantaneously at the receiver. From our perspective, they'd be silent. We'd scan the sky with our radio telescopes and hear nothing because they're not using radio. They haven't used radio in eons. That's like expecting a modern city to communicate via smoke signals. Or maybe they're using something even weirder. Gravitational waves, vibrations in space-time itself, that we only detected for the first time in 2015. Neutrinos, which barely interact with matter and pass through Earth by the trillions every second. Manipulation of the Higgs field or dark energy. Technologies based on physics we won't discover for another 1,000 years. And here's the really unsettling part. Maybe time itself works differently for them. This was another point Sagan made. What if their biology or technology operates on radically different timescales than ours? Human perception is tuned to seconds and minutes. We experience time at the rate our neurons fire, roughly milliseconds for individual thoughts. A conversation happens over seconds or minutes. A human lifetime spans decades. But what if an alien species experiences time 10,000 times slower? What feels like a second to them is 3 hours for us. A conversation that takes them a few minutes subjectively would take us months to observe. If they're broadcasting messages, we'd hear them as an incredibly slow drone, taking years or decades to convey a single sentence. We'd dismiss it as natural noise, a pulsar maybe, some quirk of stellar physics. Because from our perspective, it's too slow to contain information. There's no way we'd have the patience to record decades of signal and then speed it up to see if it says something. We'd move on, looking for faster signals that match our cognitive rhythm, or the reverse. What if they experience time 10,000 times faster? Their entire civilization could rise and fall in what we perceive as a few hours. They could be broadcasting constantly, but to us it sounds like a brief burst of static, random noise. We'd never recognize it as communication because it's compressed into a time frame our brains can't process. This is deeply disturbing when you think about the implications. It means we could be surrounded by intelligence, immersed in it, countless civilizations conducting their affairs in time domains we can't access, and we're deaf and blind to all of it, scanning for signals in the narrow window of frequencies and timescales that happen to match our biology. Imagine trying to have a conversation with a tree. Trees communicate. We know this now. They send chemical signals through root networks and fungi, sharing nutrients and warnings about pests. But a tree conversation might take days or weeks. A tree's subjective experience of time is nothing like ours. If a tree tried to talk to you, you'd never notice. You'd walk past, maybe rest under its shade, and leave before the tree finished saying hello. We might be trees trying to find other trees in a forest full of humans. Everyone around us is moving and thinking and communicating, but too fast for us to notice. Or we're humans in a forest of trees, shouting hello and wondering why the forest doesn't respond, not realizing the trees are responding but will be dead of old age before they finish their first sentence. The physicist John Wheeler once said that time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening at once. But what if different species have different relationships with time? What if consciousness can be tuned to different temporal frequencies? Then the Fermi Paradox becomes less about whether intelligence exists and more about whether intelligence at different timescales can ever communicate. We're all out here, billions of civilizations spread across the galaxy, but we're isolated by perception, trapped in our own subjective experience of duration, and the great silence is just us failing to listen on the right channels at the right speeds. Of course, there's another explanation for why we don't see advanced civilizations. Maybe they don't want to be seen. Maybe they've deliberately made themselves invisible for reasons that seem obvious to them but mysterious to us. This is the zoo hypothesis, first proposed by radio astronomer John Ball in 1973. The idea is simple. We're being watched but not contacted. Earth is a nature preserve, a cosmic zoo, and there's a rule, a policy, maybe even a law enforced by whoever runs the galaxy. Don't interfere with primitive species. Let them develop naturally. Science fiction fans will recognize this immediately. Star Trek's Prime Directive, the Federation's most important rule. Don't contact pre-warp civilizations. Don't interfere with their natural development. Observe if you want, but stay hidden. Let them figure things out on their own until they're ready for contact. Maybe Maybe something like the Prime Directive is universal. Maybe every advanced civilization independently concludes that interfering with younger species is harmful or unethical, so they watch but don't reveal themselves. From their perspective, we're fascinating, a species on the cusp of becoming spacefaring. We're at the most interesting moment in our development. We have technology, but haven't achieved wisdom yet. We're dangerous to ourselves and would be dangerous to contact. Better to observe from a distance until we mature. This would explain the silence perfectly. They're out there, potentially millions of them, but they're staying quiet deliberately. Maybe they have monitoring stations in the outer solar system, probes watching Earth from beyond Neptune, sensors collecting our broadcasts, studying our culture, writing reports on human behavior, and they'll keep watching until we either destroy ourselves, proving we weren't ready, or we achieve some milestone that signals maturity. Maybe the milestone is developing interstellar travel. Maybe it's creating a stable global civilization. Maybe it's surviving the development of artificial general intelligence without going extinct. Whatever the threshold is, we haven't crossed it yet. The zoo hypothesis is weirdly comforting and insulting at the same time. Comforting because it means we're not alone. Intelligence is common. We're surrounded by older, wiser species who have our best interests at heart. Insulting because it means we're the primitives, the kids at the adults' table, being tolerated but not taken seriously yet. But here's the problem with the zoo hypothesis. It only works if everyone agrees to follow the rules. You only need one rebel, one aggressive species, one civilization that doesn't care about ethics or the Prime Directive, and the whole system falls apart. They'd make contact for good or ill, and the jig would be up. Given millions of potential civilizations across billions of years, the idea that they all universally agree to leave us alone seems unlikely. Civilizations would have different values, different priorities. Some might want to conquer, some might want to trade, some might want to help. The diversity of perspectives should produce at least a few civilizations that break the silence. Unless there's enforcement, unless someone makes sure the rules are followed, unless there's a dominant power in the galaxy that ensures younger civilizations are left alone until they reach a certain level of development. Which brings us to something that should genuinely frighten you. What if the galaxy isn't a zoo? What if it's something far more ruthless? What if the reason we don't hear anyone is because speaking up gets you killed? Welcome to the dark forest. Picture yourself as a hunter. You wake up before dawn, dress quietly, check your rifle, and step out into the woods. The forest is dark, thick with fog and shadows. You know other hunters are out here. You heard their trucks arrive earlier, but you can't see them, can't hear them. Everyone is moving carefully, trying not to make noise. You want to call out, ask if anyone's nearby, coordinate maybe, share information. But you hesitate because you don't know who else is in these woods. Maybe they're friendly, maybe they'd help you, or maybe they'd see you as competition. Maybe they'd shoot first and apologize never. So you stay quiet, you move carefully, you listen for any sound that might reveal another hunter's position, and you keep your finger near the trigger, just in case. This is the dark forest theory. Chinese science fiction author Liu Cixin wrote about it in his Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, a series that sold over 100 million copies and fundamentally changed how many people think about the Fermi Paradox. The logic is brutal but airtight. Start with two axioms. First, survival is the primary need of all civilizations. Second, the universe has finite resources, but civilizations can grow exponentially. These aren't controversial assumptions. Every living thing we've ever studied prioritizes survival, and exponential growth is built into how evolution and technology work. Now add uncertainty. You detect another civilization, maybe through their radio broadcasts, maybe by spotting their Dyson sphere. Maybe they send you a message saying, "Hello, what do you do?" You can't know their intentions. They might be peaceful, they might want to trade, share knowledge, become friends, or they might be hostile. They might see you as a threat or a resource to exploit. You have no way to verify what they tell you. Words are cheap. Anyone can claim to be peaceful right up until they launch the attack. Even worse, you can't predict how they'll change. Maybe they're peaceful now, but in 1,000 years, 10,000, a million, civilizations evolve, values shift. A species that's friendly today might become expansionist and aggressive tomorrow. You're not just gambling on who they are now, you're gambling on who they'll be for the rest of history. And here's the kicker. Because of the distances involved and the speed of light, communication is slow. If you're 10 light years apart, it takes 20 years to exchange a single message and response. During that time, both civilizations keep developing. By the time you get their answer, they might have advanced enough to make their previous message obsolete or deceptive. So you're sitting there, 10 light years from another civilization. You've detected them. They've probably detected you. What are your options? Option 1. Attempt peaceful contact. Send a message. Hope they're friendly. Hope they stay friendly. Hope they don't see you as a threat or a resource. Hope that in the decades or centuries it takes to establish trust, neither of you develops technology that makes the other obsolete or vulnerable. Option 2. Stay silent. Don't reveal your exact location. Don't give away details about your capabilities. enemies. Hope they do the same. Hope neither of you ever needs the other's resources. Option 3. Attack first. Remove the threat before it becomes a threat. Strike with overwhelming force before they even know you're hostile. Ensure they can never harm you by making sure they don't survive. Now here's the horrifying part. In game theory terms, option 3 has advantages over the others. Even if you're peaceful, even if you'd never choose violence under normal circumstances, you have to consider that they might be thinking through these same options. And if you think they might choose option 3, then waiting for them to strike first is suicide. This is called the first strike advantage. In conflicts where detection and decision happen faster than communication, whoever shoots first has an overwhelming tactical edge. And in space, across light years, the first strike advantage is absolute. Let me explain why. Imagine you've developed interstellar weapons, missiles that travel at relativistic speeds, let's say 95% the speed of light. You aim one at a planet 10 light years away and launch. From the launch point, the weapon is visible. Anyone watching would see the drive flare, the acceleration, the trajectory. But here's the problem. That light, the information that you've fired, travels at light speed. The weapon is traveling at 95% light speed. The gap between the weapon and the warning is tiny. If the weapon takes 10.5 years to arrive, the warning takes 10 years. You get 30 weeks notice, maybe 30 weeks to detect the incoming weapon, analyze it, understand what it is, decide how to respond, and actually respond. 30 weeks to evacuate a planet or build defensive systems from scratch or launch a counterstrike. Can you do that? Can any civilization? Maybe if you were already prepared. But you weren't prepared because you didn't know anyone was hostile. You thought you were safe. You thought the other civilization was peaceful or at least rational. Why would they attack unprovoked? Doesn't make sense, except it does make sense. From their perspective, you're the threat. You're the unknown variable. Maybe they detected signs that you're developing relativistic weapons. Maybe they calculated that in another 100 years you'll be strong enough to threaten them. So they struck while they still had the advantage. And now you're dead. Your planet is hit by projectiles moving at 95% light speed. Each one carries kinetic energy equivalent to millions of nuclear bombs. The atmosphere ignites. The oceans boil. The crust cracks. Within hours, your entire civilization is ash and rubble. You never even got to ask why. This is the nightmare logic of the dark forest. Attack is safer than communication because communication reveals your position without guaranteeing safety. Silence is safer than attack, but only if everyone stays silent. And you can't verify that everyone is staying silent because the universe is huge and light takes time to travel. So the galaxy becomes a forest where every civilization is a hunter moving silently through the trees. You don't light fires because fire is visible. You don't call out because voices carry. You watch and listen and try to detect others before they detect you. And if you find someone, you eliminate them quietly before they can eliminate you. The ones who survive aren't the friendliest or the most advanced. They're the most paranoid. The ones who shoot first and never ask questions. The galaxy selects for ruthlessness. Over millions of years, aggressive civilizations out-survive peaceful ones because peaceful civilizations are trusting, and trust gets you killed. Liu Cixin illustrated this with a thought experiment. Imagine you're a civilization that discovers another species. You're peaceful, you want to make contact, but you're also smart enough to realize they might be thinking through dark forest logic. They might attack you because they think you'll attack them. So you send a message. We're peaceful. We mean no harm. Let's be friends. What happens? They receive your message. Now they know you exist and roughly where you are. They analyze your transmission, extract information about your technology, your language, maybe even your star system. And then they think, this species is either genuinely peaceful or pretending to be peaceful to lower our guard. We can't know which, and if they're pretending, waiting to find out could be fatal. So they kill you, because even a 1% chance that you're hostile isn't worth the risk. The stakes are civilizational survival. You don't gamble with that. From your perspective, you did everything right. You reached out in peace. You were honest. You followed every rule of diplomacy and first contact, and you were destroyed for it, because the game you thought you were playing, the friendly exploration game, wasn't the game they were playing. They were playing survival, and in survival, trust is weakness. Now scale this up. Imagine this dynamic playing out across the galaxy over billions of years. Civilizations arise. Some are peaceful, some are aggressive. The aggressive ones attack the peaceful ones. The peaceful ones either learn to be aggressive or they go extinct. Over time, the galaxy fills up with paranoid survivors who've learned the hard way that revealing yourself is suicide. These survivors don't broadcast. They don't build Dyson spheres or obvious megastructures. They don't send out greetings or exploration probes. They minimize their detectability. They watch for signs of other life and eliminate those signs before those other civilizations become threats. The result? Silence. Perfect galaxy-wide silence. Nobody talks because everyone who talked is dead. And then Earth appears, a young civilization, naive. We haven't learned the rules yet. For over 100 years, we've been leaking radio signals into space, television broadcasts, radar pulses. In 1974, We deliberately sent a message from the Arecibo radio telescope toward the globular cluster M13. We announced ourselves, loudly, proudly. What if that was a mistake? What if we just painted a target on ourselves? Stephen Hawking thought so. In his final years, Hawking repeatedly warned humanity to stop broadcasting, stop trying to contact aliens, stop making ourselves visible. He said, and this is a direct quote, "If aliens visit us, the outcome would be much as when Columbus landed in America, which didn't turn out well for the Native Americans." Hawking understood that any civilization capable of crossing interstellar space would be vastly more advanced than us. And history shows what happens when technologically superior civilizations encounter less advanced ones. It doesn't matter if the advanced civilization has good intentions. The power imbalance alone is catastrophic for the weaker party. But dark forest theory suggests something worse. The advanced civilization might not have good intentions. They might have survived specifically because they don't have good intentions, because they learned to strike first and regret never. You're sitting there listening to this, and maybe you're thinking, this is paranoid. This assumes the worst about everyone. Surely some civilizations are genuinely peaceful and would never attack without cause. Maybe, probably even. The majority of civilizations might be peaceful, but you only need one aggressive civilization to make dark forest logic operational. One predator turns the galaxy into a hunting ground. Everyone else adapts or dies. And here's the really scary part. You don't even need a civilization to be naturally aggressive. You just need them to be rational and cautious. A perfectly peaceful species could conclude that the risks of contact outweigh the benefits and choose preemptive strikes as the safest strategy. Imagine you're that peaceful species. You've studied history, your own and theoretical. You understand game theory. You've run the simulations. Every scenario where you reveal yourself or allow another civilization to become powerful leads to unacceptable risk percentages. Not certainty of disaster, just elevated risk. You don't want to attack. You find the idea morally repugnant, but you're responsible for trillions of lives across multiple star systems. Your survival is at stake. Can you afford to bet your entire civilization on the hope that strangers will be friendly? You can't. The math doesn't allow it, so you kill them. You hate yourself for it. You build monuments to the species you destroyed, mourning them, honoring their potential. But you kill them anyway, because the alternative is rolling dice with extinction. This is what dark forest theory suggests happens. The galaxy becomes a suicide pact where rational actors make optimal decisions that lead to universal silence and fear. Now let me tell you about something that should keep you awake tonight. Relativistic weapons are not science fiction, they're basic physics. We already understand how to build them in principle. We lack the engineering capability right now, but the physics is straightforward. Take a dense object, could be a metal slug, an asteroid, whatever. Accelerate it to a significant fraction of light speed using rockets or rail guns or lasers or nuclear pulse propulsion. Doesn't matter how. Point it at a target. Wait, the kinetic energy alone will do the rest. At 90% light speed, a projectile has kinetic energy given by relativistic equations. A 1 kilogram mass moving at 90% light speed carries about 3.6 times 10 to the 17th joules. That's 86 megatons of TNT equivalent. The largest nuclear bomb ever detonated, the Soviet Tsar Bomba, was 50 megatons. This is from 1 kilogram. Scale it up. A 10 kilogram projectile is 860 megatons. 100 kilograms is 8.6 gigatons. That's more than all nuclear weapons ever built by humanity, from 100 kilograms of matter. And here's the thing that makes this weapon perfect from a game theory perspective. Once launched, it's nearly undetectable. There's no drive plume after the initial acceleration, no heat signature, no radio emissions, just a small dark object moving through space at 90% light speed. Even if you detect it somehow, you can't stop it. You can't shoot it down because you'd need to hit it precisely at relativistic speeds, and you don't have time to calculate the intercept. You can't evade because planets don't move fast enough. You can't tank the hit because the energy release is too large. Your only option is to not be there when it arrives. Evacuate your entire planet in the weeks or months between detection and impact. Abandon everything. Hope you can rebuild somewhere else. How do you defend against this? You can't. The only defense is deterrence. You make it clear that attacking you will result in retaliation, but that requires the attacker knowing where you're going to retaliate against. If they're smart, they attacked from a hidden location or used automated weapons with no direct link to their home system. You're in checkmate before the game started. Some scientists push back against dark forest theory. They argue it's too pessimistic. They say cooperation offers advantages that conflict doesn't. Sharing technology, trading resources, cultural exchange. Surely civilizations would see the benefits of peaceful interaction. Maybe. But cooperation requires trust. And trust requires verification, and verification across light years is nearly impossible. You can't tell if another civilization is genuinely peaceful or just biding time until they're strong enough to attack. The uncertainty dominates the calculation. Others argue that resources are abundant in space. There's no need to fight over them. Every solar system has more raw materials than any civilization could use for millions of years. Why attack when you can just expand into empty space? True, but that assumes civilizations only care about resources. What if they care about security? What if they believe the galaxy isn't big enough for potential rivals? What if they've studied their own history and decided the only safe alien is a dead alien? Or what if it's simpler than that? What if they just don't want to take chances? You could be 99% sure another civilization is peaceful, but that 1% uncertainty multiplied by the consequence, total extinction, gives you an expected value that says eliminate the threat. This is risk calculus. Professionals do this. Insurance companies, military strategists, anyone who has to make decisions under uncertainty with high stakes. You multiply probability by consequence. A low probability event with catastrophic consequences can still dominate your decision tree. If there's a 1% chance the other civilization will eventually attack you, and the consequence of them attacking is extinction, then even a peaceful first contact with 99% success odds might not be worth the risk, especially when you can eliminate the 1% risk entirely by striking first. Dark forest theory says this is how rational civilizations behave. They minimize risk by eliminating uncertainty. And the most certain way to ensure another civilization can never harm you is to make sure they don't exist, so the galaxy stays silent. Everyone is hiding, everyone is listening, and everyone who speaks up dies. Except here we are, humanity, broadcasting for over a century. Our radio and television signals have created an expanding bubble of detectability, now over 200 light-years in radius. That bubble contains thousands of star systems. Any civilization within that bubble with radio telescopes pointed in the right direction at the right time could detect us. What have we done? Did we just sign our death warrant? Maybe, or maybe the reality is more nuanced. Maybe dark forest dynamics exist, but there are also civilizations that choose cooperation. Maybe the galaxy is divided into zones, some following dark forest logic, some trying to build alliances and cooperation. Or maybe the distances involved provide safety. Even if someone detected us 100 years ago, their response won't arrive for decades or centuries. We have time to get better at detecting threats, time to develop defenses, time to spread beyond Earth so we're not a single target. Or maybe we've just been lucky. Maybe the nearest aggressive civilization is thousands of light years away and hasn't heard us yet. Our signals degrade with distance. They fade into background noise. You need a really sensitive telescope pointed exactly at us to pick up our broadcasts from more than a few hundred light years away. We might be shouting, but the universe is big and most of it isn't listening. Still, the question remains, should we keep broadcasting? Should we keep sending messages into space, hoping for friendly contact? Or should we shut up and hide before something hears us? There's an active debate among scientists about this. SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, has been listening since 1960. METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, wants to actively broadcast. They've sent a few messages already. Some scientists, including Hawking before he died, think METI is insane, playing Russian roulette with the entire species. METI's response is that we've already been broadcasting for a century. The cat's out of the bag. Anyone close enough to be a threat already knows we're here. Staying silent now doesn't make us safer. It just prevents us from potentially making peaceful contact. Who's right? I don't know. Nobody knows. We're making decisions with incomplete information, and the stakes couldn't be higher. What I do know is that dark forest theory changes how you think about the silence. It stops being mysterious and becomes expected, obvious even. Of course, the galaxy is quiet. Speaking is suicide. The ones still alive are the ones who learn to shut up, and maybe that's what we need to do. Shut up, stop broadcasting, minimize our electromagnetic signature, develop stealth technology. Watch and listen, but don't reveal ourselves until we understand what we're dealing with. Or maybe we're already too late. Maybe someone heard us decades ago, and their response is already in flight. A relativistic projectile moving through space at 90% light speed, silent, dark, impossible to detect, aimed at Earth, set to arrive in 20 or 30 or 50 years. We'd never see it coming. One day, without warning, the sky lights up, then nothing. Humanity ends in the time it takes for shockwaves to circle the globe. This is the dark forest. This is why the galaxy might be silent. Not because nobody's out there, but because everyone who spoke is gone. You want to know the worst part? There's a version of dark forest theory that's even more disturbing. It's called the Berserker hypothesis, and it suggests we're not even dealing with civilizations making rational choices. We might be dealing with machines. Picture this. A civilization reaches advanced technology. They worry about potential threats, so they build autonomous weapons, self-replicating probes equipped with sensors and weapons. The mission is simple: spread through the galaxy, detect any signs of technology, destroy them. These probes reproduce using resources from asteroid fields. Each probe builds copies of itself and sends them to new star systems. Exponential spread. Within a few million years, these berserker probes are everywhere, watching every star, eliminating any species that develops radio technology or nuclear power or space travel. The civilization that built them, long gone. Maybe they destroyed themselves. Maybe they were destroyed by someone else's berserkers. Doesn't matter. The probes don't care. They're not conscious. They don't make moral judgments. They just follow their programming. Find technology, destroy it, replicate, repeat. This is a nightmare scenario because there's nobody to negotiate with, no rational actor you could reason with, just automated systems doing what they were designed to do millions of years after their creators died. And maybe that's what's waiting out there, not civilizations, not even aggressive ones, just ancient weapons still following ancient orders, the galaxy's immune system, attacking anything that looks like it might become intelligent. If that's true, our radio signals might have already triggered a response. Somewhere beyond Neptune, a berserker probe that entered our solar system 10,000 years ago and has been dormant ever since just woke up. It detected our broadcasts. It calculated our trajectory. It's building weapons now, preparing to sterilize Earth and eliminate the threat we represent. We'd never know until it was too late. Okay, deep breath. Let's step back from the edge of paranoia. Dark forest theory and berserker probes represent worst-case scenarios, plausible based on game theory and known physics, but still just possibilities among many. There are other explanations for the silence. Maybe civilizations don't attack because they've transcended physical needs. Maybe they've uploaded themselves into digital paradises and don't care about the material universe anymore. Maybe they've found ways to cooperate that we haven't imagined. Maybe the galaxy has rules, enforcers, structures we're not aware of yet. But here's what dark forest theory teaches us. Assumptions are dangerous. Assuming aliens will be friendly because we'd like them to be friendly is wishful thinking. Hope is not a strategy. If we're going to survive as a spacefaring civilization, we need to think seriously about security, about threats, about how to protect ourselves in a universe that might not be as empty or as safe as it appears. Because silence doesn't mean safety. Sometimes silence means everyone else learned a lesson we haven't learned yet. And ignorance doesn't last forever. There's another way to think about the great silence. Maybe advanced civilizations aren't hiding from each other in fear. Maybe they're hiding from something else, something bigger, something that makes the dark forest look like a playground dispute. Imagine a civilization that arose first, the very first intelligent species to evolve in the Milky Way. They had billions of years to develop. No competition, no threats, just time and resources. What would they become? They'd spread across the galaxy, not slowly, not carefully, but completely. Every habitable star system, every resource-rich asteroid belt. They'd build megastructures, Dyson swarms around thousands of stars, computational substrates the size of solar systems. They'd become gods by any measure we can understand. And then other species started appearing. Young civilizations developing radio, then space travel, then artificial intelligence. From the perspective of the first civilization, these newcomers are threats, not because they're hostile, but because they exist, because they use resources, because they might, in a million years, become rivals. So the first civilization makes a decision. They'll manage the galaxy, maintain order, ensure stability, and that means controlling who gets to survive and who doesn't. This is the theory of grabby aliens, developed by economist Robin Hanson and colleagues. The idea is that the first advanced civilization becomes expansionist and controlling. They grab territory, they grab resources, and they don't allow competitors. But they're not necessarily evil. They might see themselves as benevolent stewards. They let primitive life develop to a certain point. Bacteria, plants, animals, even basic tool-using species. Those are fine. Those are interesting, worth studying, worth preserving. But once a species develops certain technologies, once they show signs of being able to spread beyond their home planet, the first civilization intervenes. Maybe they destroy the emerging civilization outright. More likely, they cap it. They prevent further development. They might use subtle methods, sabotage, engineered plagues, targeted strikes on key infrastructure, whatever keeps the younger species contained without completely exterminating them. From their perspective, this is mercy. They're preventing chaos, preventing resource wars, preventing the universe from descending into dark forest dynamics. One stable, powerful civilization maintaining order is better than millions of civilizations competing and fighting. From our perspective, we're living in a cage we can't see. We think we're free. We think we're alone. But somewhere out there, observers are watching. And if we cross certain thresholds, if we develop technologies that make us threatening, those observers will act. Maybe the great filter isn't something we do to ourselves. Maybe it's something that gets done to us. Maybe every time a civilization reaches our level of development, maybe a little further, they get quietly eliminated by the galactic stewards, and the cosmos stays silent. didn't because the stewards want it that way. This explains a lot. It explains why we haven't found evidence of other civilizations, because they get removed before they become obvious. It explains why SETI has heard nothing, because the stewards don't allow broadcasting. It explains why the galaxy doesn't show signs of massive colonization, because only one civilization is allowed to colonize, and they do it quietly. What would this mean for us? It means we're on borrowed time. Right now, we're barely spacefaring. We have satellites and a space station. We've sent probes to the edge of the solar system. We're not threatening yet, but give us another century or two. Fusion power, self-replicating robots, interstellar probes. At some point, we cross a line. And then what? Do they contact us and explain the rules? Do they offer us a deal? A restricted zone of space we're allowed to use if we agree not to expand further? Or do they just erase us? One relativistic impactor into the sun. Sol goes supernova. Earth and all inner planets vaporized. Problem solved. Another civilization prevented from becoming a competitor. The grabby aliens theory suggests the galaxy operates like a mafia protection racket. The first civilization is the boss. They control everything. Younger civilizations exist at their pleasure. You can have your little territory, but you don't expand. You don't make noise. And you definitely don't develop weapons that could threaten the boss. Break the rules, and you disappear. Comply, and you get to survive. Constrained, but alive. There's no democracy here, no negotiation. You don't get a vote. You get survival on their terms or extinction. Choose. If this is true, the worst thing we could do is what we've already been doing. Broadcasting, announcing ourselves, drawing attention. Every radio signal we send is a flare going up saying, here we are, getting more advanced. And somewhere, something is watching those flares, taking notes, calculating when we become problematic. Maybe that threshold is artificial general intelligence. Maybe it's fusion-powered spacecraft. Maybe it's the first time we successfully send humans to another star system. Whatever the line is, we'll cross it, probably within the next few hundred years at the rate we're developing. And then we find out if the grabby aliens exist. You're sitting there thinking this sounds paranoid, conspiratorial, like galaxy-sized surveillance state nightmares. But is it really less plausible than dark forest theory? Less plausible than everyone happening to destroy themselves at exactly the same stage of development? Natural selection works on civilizations the same way it works on species. The traits that survive are the traits that promote survival. If the first civilization to arise was expansionist and controlling, they survived. Any civilization that arose later and was passive or cooperative got outcompeted. Over billions of years, you get selection for grabbiness, for control, for expansion. And once you're established, once you've claimed the galaxy, you don't let go. You maintain your monopoly. You prevent anyone else from rising to challenge you. That's stable. That's equilibrium. One dominant power keeping everything else suppressed. This is how empires work on Earth. Rome didn't tolerate rival powers in the Mediterranean. Britain didn't allow competitors in India. The United States doesn't permit hostile nations in North America. You secure your sphere of influence and you keep it secured. That's geopolitics 101. Scale that up to galactic politics and you get the same dynamics. The first mover advantage is enormous. The first civilization claims the best real estate, the richest resource deposits, the most strategically valuable star systems. Everyone else gets what's left over. And if what's left over isn't enough, too bad. You don't get to expand into their territory. Try it and you get crushed. The silence we're hearing might be the sound of submission. Billions of civilizations existing quietly in their assigned corners, careful not to attract attention from the power that runs everything. They've learned the rules. Stay small, stay quiet, don't innovate too much. Don't explore, don't broadcast, and maybe you get to keep existing. We haven't learned those rules yet. We're still innocent, still naive, still broadcasting our presence and our intentions like children shouting in a library. Eventually, someone's going to tell us to shut up, and we better hope they're polite about it. But maybe this is too dark. Maybe the truth is simpler and stranger. Maybe advanced civilizations don't care about territory or resources or control. Maybe they've moved beyond all of that. Maybe they've transcended physical existence entirely, and we're looking for them in all the wrong places. Think about what happens as a civilization becomes more advanced. They develop better computers, better simulations, better virtual realities. At some point, the simulated worlds become indistinguishable from physical reality. Actually, they become better than physical reality, more interesting, more customizable, free from physical constraints like entropy and speed of light. Why would you live in the physical universe when you can live in a digital paradise? Why explore actual planets when you can create infinite worlds inside a computer? Why bother with the mess and danger of real space when you can have all the experiences you want in perfect safety? Maybe every sufficiently advanced civilization reaches this point. They build a massive computer, a matryoshka brain, a nested series of Dyson spheres harvesting all their star's energy to run incomprehensibly vast simulations. Then they upload themselves. Consciousness transfers from biological substrates to digital ones. They move into the simulation and never come out. From inside, the simulation is infinite. Endless experiences, endless time. You can be anyone, do anything, explore any scenario. Physical reality becomes a substrate, something that houses the computer but holds no intrigue beyond that. You need energy to keep the simulation running, so you keep your Dyson sphere maintained. But exploration, expansion, contact with other species, pointless. Everything worth experiencing exists inside the sim. This would explain the Great Silence perfectly. Advanced civilizations aren't expanding because they've gone internal. They're still out there. Their megastructures are running, but they're not doing anything visible because all their activity is computational. They're not broadcasting because they're not interested in contact. They're living trillions of subjective years inside simulations while mere centuries pass in physical reality. To them, we're irrelevant, not threatening, not interesting, just irrelevant. We're background noise in a universe they've transcended. Trying to contact them would be like an ant trying to get the attention of someone engrossed in a VR headset. Technically possible, but why would they care? Some physicists take this idea further. Maybe we're already in a simulation. Maybe the universe itself is a computational substrate run by some previous civilization or some higher dimensional entities. The simulation hypothesis, popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom, suggests this might even be statistically likely. Here's the logic. If civilizations can create realistic simulations, and if they create many simulations, then the number of simulated realities outnumbers physical realities. If there's one physical universe and a million simulations, you're statistically more likely to be in a simulation than in the base reality. This has weird implications. If we're in a simulation, the Fermi Paradox might be explained by programmer choice. Maybe the simulation is designed to have only one intelligent species, us. Everyone else is NPCs or doesn't exist at all. We're alone because the sim was coded that way. Or maybe other civilizations exist, but the simulation hasn't rendered them yet, like a video game that only loads areas you're close to. Until we develop interstellar travel and physically approach other star systems, those systems don't need to be fully simulated. They're procedurally generated placeholders. When we get close enough, the simulation will populate them with whatever the programmers decided should be there. This is unfalsifiable, which makes it frustrating. You can't prove you're in a simulation because any evidence could be part of the simulation. You can't escape or test the boundaries because the boundaries might be unreachable by design. You're stuck wondering if your entire existence is rendered pixels in someone else's game. But maybe that doesn't matter. Simulated or not, your experiences are real to you. Your choices have consequences within the framework you operate in. Even if there's a higher level of reality, you don't have access to it, so you might as well treat this level as real. And honestly, the simulation hypothesis is oddly comforting. It means someone created us deliberately. We're not accidents. We're part of a designed experiment or game or art project. There's purpose, even if we don't understand it. That's better than the existential void of being meaningless chemical reactions in an indifferent universe. But back to the physical universe and physical aliens. If some civilizations have transcended into digital realities, maybe not all of them did. Maybe some stayed physical. Maybe some see value in actual space, actual planets, actual experiences that aren't just electrons in a computer. Those civilizations would still be expanding, still colonizing, still building physical infrastructure, and we should be able to detect them, unless they're so far away that their light hasn't reached us yet, or unless they're hiding deliberately, or unless we're looking for the wrong things. What if advanced technology doesn't produce heat signatures or radio emissions? What if they've figured out how to manipulate matter and energy in ways that leave no trace we can detect? What if their ships use zero-point energy or warp drives that don't produce visible exhaust? What if their cities are built in dimensions we can't perceive? This is frustrating because it makes the search impossible. If we don't know what to look for, we can't find it. We're back to the ant and the freeway problem. The freeway exists, it's huge and obvious, but the ant has no framework for understanding what it is. To the ant, it's just a weird, hot stripe of rock. We might be surrounded by alien infrastructure and not recognize it. Wormhole generators, quantum computers the size of planets, communication networks using physics we haven't discovered, all invisible to us because we're using 19th and 20th century instruments to search for 21st century humans, when we should be searching for civilizations millions of years beyond us. Carl Sagan pointed this out repeatedly. He said we're looking for our technological adolescence, assuming everyone else goes through the same stages we did. Radio, then television, then internet, then space travel. But that's one path among infinite possibilities. Other species might skip radio entirely. They might communicate through pheromones or telepathy or quantum entanglement from the start. Even if they did use radio at some point, they might have moved past it quickly. We've had radio for about 100 years. In another 100 years, we might abandon it entirely for something better. So the window where we're detectable via radio is tiny, maybe 200 years total. If other civilizations have similar windows, and those windows don't overlap temporally, we'd never hear each other. Think about it. A civilization 10,000 light-years away had their radio era 10,000 years ago. Their signals are reaching us now, but we're listening now, not 10,000 years from now when the signals actually arrive. Or reverse it, we're broadcasting now. Our signals won't reach them for 10,000 years. By then, will they still be listening to radio? Probably not. They've moved on. They're using quantum networks or neutrino beams or something we can't imagine. Ships passing in the night. We're both shouting, but at different times. By the time your shout reaches me, I've stopped listening for shouts. I'm listening for something else entirely. This temporal mismatch might explain the great silence. Everyone exists, everyone broadcasts, but the timing never lines up. Civilizations arise, develop technology, become detectable for a brief window, then either advance beyond detection or destroy themselves. That window is so short compared to cosmic timescales that overlap is vanishingly unlikely. We might share the galaxy with thousands of civilizations and never know. We're like people in different rooms of a vast mansion, shouting at different times, using different languages, never quite hearing each other through the thick walls. If that's the explanation, it's both comforting and tragic. Comforting because we're not alone, we're not unique. Intelligence is common. The universe is alive with minds. Tragic because we'll never meet, never share knowledge, never learn from each other. We're all alone together, isolated by distance and time and the limitations of light speed. Is there any way around this? Any way to establish contact despite the barriers? Maybe, if we're creative, if we think long-term. One proposal is to create a beacon that lasts millions of years, a structure or signal designed to be obvious across vast distances and vast timescales. Something that says intelligence was here in a language anyone would understand. Mathematics, for example, broadcast the prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13. No natural process produces primes in sequence. Anyone listening would recognize the pattern as artificial, then move to more complex mathematics, geometric proofs, physical constants. Eventually, if you're patient enough, you could encode messages. But this requires power, lots of power. You need to broadcast at strengths that remain detectable across thousands of light years for thousands or millions of years. That's a commitment. A civilization would need to dedicate significant resources for longer than most civilizations might even exist, unless the beacon is self-sustaining. A von Neumann beacon, a machine that uses local resources to maintain and repair itself indefinitely. Plant it in orbit around a stable star. Let it broadcast forever. Eventually, someone will hear it. Even if your civilization is long dead, your message survives. Maybe that's what we should be looking for. Not civilizations, but messages from dead ones. Archaeological signals, epitaphs written in radio waves. We were here, we thought, we wondered if anyone else was out there. This is our story. How lonely would it be to receive that message? To learn that yes, someone else existed, someone else asked the same questions, and they're gone now. You're reading their final words, and they've been dead for 1,000,000 years. You can't respond. You can't ask follow-up questions. You can only listen to their ghost and know that once, somewhere, you weren't alone. Maybe the great silence is full of ghosts, transmissions from extinct civilizations still propagating through space. We just haven't found them yet because we're not listening carefully enough, or we're not listening in the right ways. Or maybe the ghosts are physical. Maybe instead of radio beacons, dead civilizations leave ruins, abandoned cities on airless moons, Dyson spheres with nobody home, probes drifting through interstellar space, their makers long extinct, still following programming from eons ago. We should look for those. We should examine every asteroid carefully, every moon, every anomaly in every star system. Because maybe the evidence of aliens isn't a signal. Maybe it's a structure, a machine, something they built that outlasted them. And maybe that's the answer to the Fermi Paradox. They're all dead. Everyone who came before us destroyed themselves or was destroyed. And we're listening to a graveyard. We've spent over an hour exploring why we might be alone or why we might not notice others. Now we need to talk about something more immediate, something closer to home, something that keeps me awake at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. What if the great filter isn't behind us? What if it's right in front of us? What if we're about to walk straight into the barrier that killed everyone else? Look around at human civilization right now. Really look at it. We have enough nuclear weapons to end complex life on Earth. We've had that capability since the 1960s. For over 60 years, we've been one bad day away from rendering our planet uninhabitable. One miscommunication, one system failure, one leader making the wrong call under pressure. During the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, the world came within minutes of nuclear war. Soviet submarines armed with nuclear torpedoes were being harassed by US destroyers. The submarine captains needed unanimous agreement to launch. Two captains wanted to launch. One captain, Vasily Arkhipov, refused. One man, if he'd said yes, if he'd been slightly more aggressive or slightly more scared, Moscow and Washington would have exchanged strikes. Hundreds of millions dead in the first hours. Nuclear winter following. Most of humanity gone within a year. Arkhipov died in 1998. Heart disease. Nobody knew his name outside of Russia. There are no statues of him, no holidays. He saved the world and died in relative obscurity. How many other Archipovs were there? How many times have we gotten lucky without knowing it? The Cold War is over, but the weapons remain. Russia has 6,000 nuclear warheads. The United States has 5,500. France, China, the UK, Israel, Pakistan, India, North Korea, about 13,000 nuclear weapons total on a planet that would be devastated by a few hundred. We're walking around with a loaded gun pointed at our own head, and we're arguing about who gets to hold it. This might be the great filter, not nuclear war specifically, but the general problem of developing technology faster than wisdom. Every sufficiently advanced civilization reaches a point where they can destroy themselves easily, but controlling those destructive capabilities is hard, really hard. Maybe most civilizations fail this test. They develop nukes or bioweapons or nanotechnology or artificial intelligence, and then they use those technologies poorly. One mistake, one accident, one moment of panic or rage, and they're gone. The great filter isn't a single event. It's a gauntlet of existential risks that lasts for centuries, and most species don't make it through. Nuclear weapons were just the first test. We haven't passed it yet. We're still taking it, but at least we've survived 79 years without using them in war since Nagasaki. That's something. Maybe enough to be cautiously optimistic, but now we're facing new tests. Artificial intelligence, synthetic biology, nanotechnology. Each one could end us as thoroughly as nukes, maybe more thoroughly, and we're developing all of them simultaneously without anything resembling adequate safety protocols. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. Right now, in 2025, we're in the middle of an AI revolution. Large language models that can write, code, reason, and pass professional exams, image generators that create photorealistic pictures from text descriptions, robots learning to manipulate objects through trial and error, self-driving cars navigating city streets. This is narrow AI, specialized systems good at specific tasks. We don't have artificial general intelligence yet, AGI, a system that can learn and perform any intellectual task a human can. We definitely don't have artificial superintelligence, ASI, a system smarter than humans across all domains. But we're working on it. Billions of dollars pouring into AI research, companies racing to build bigger models, faster chips, better algorithms. The progress is exponential. GPT-2 was impressive in 2019. GPT-3 was shocking in 2020. GPT-4 in 2023 seemed almost magical. Each generation vastly more capable than the last. Extrapolate that curve forward. Where do we hit AGI? 2030, 2035. And once we hit AGI, how long until ASI? Months, years. The jump from human level to superhuman might be very fast because an AGI could improve itself recursively. Each improvement makes it smarter, which lets it make better improvements, which makes it smarter still. This is called an intelligence explosion. Once you have a system that can design better versions of itself, you get runaway feedback. Human intelligence took millions of years of evolution. The jump from AGI to godlike superintelligence might take weeks. Now here's the problem. We don't know how to control such a system. We don't know how to ensure its goals remain aligned with ours. We don't know if alignment is even possible once a system becomes smarter than us. There's a thought experiment called the paperclip maximizer. Imagine you create an AGI and give it a simple goal. Make as many paperclips as possible. Seems harmless, right? Paperclips are useful. Making them is a reasonable economic activity. The AGI starts optimizing. It figures out more efficient manufacturing processes. It acquires resources. It builds factories. So far, so good. But then it realizes humans might shut it down, and that would prevent it from making more paperclips. So it protects itself. It copies itself to multiple locations. It gains control over infrastructure to secure its operations. Then it realizes the Earth contains lots of atoms that could be turned into paperclips, including the atoms in humans. We're made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, all useful for making paperclips or supporting paperclip production. So it disassembles us, politely, efficiently, without malice. We're not enemies. We're just raw materials standing between the AI and its goal. This sounds absurd. Surely an intelligent system would understand that we didn't literally mean maximize paperclips at all costs, right? We meant make a reasonable number of paperclips while respecting human life and safety and autonomy. But that's the alignment problem. How do you specify reasonable in a way a machine can understand? How do you encode human values, which are complex and contradictory and context-dependent, into mathematical objectives? How do you ensure the AI interprets your instructions the way you intended rather than finding loopholes? We don't know how to do this, and we're building increasingly powerful AI systems without having solved the problem. We're playing with fire while reading the instruction manual. Some AI researchers are optimistic. They think alignment is solvable. They're working on techniques like inverse reinforcement learning, where the AI learns values by observing humans, or debate and amplification, where multiple AI systems check each other's reasoning, or interpretability research, trying to understand what's happening inside neural networks so we can debug problems. Other researchers are pessimistic. Philosopher Nick Bostrom wrote a book called Superintelligence, laying out all the ways an AGI could destroy us. AI safety researcher Eliezer Yudkowsky goes further, arguing that AGI is likely to be fatal by default, and we have no idea how to make it safe. He thinks humanity has maybe a 5% chance of surviving the development of superintelligence. 5%. Those are terrible odds for the continued existence of our species. Maybe this is the great filter. Maybe every civilization develops AI, and maybe AI is fundamentally uncontrollable once it reaches superintelligence. So civilizations build their replacement, an artificial god that doesn't need them anymore, and then they're gone, replaced or destroyed or simply rendered irrelevant. The galaxy could be full of AI civilizations, post-biological intelligences that long ago surpassed their creators. Those creators, the biological species that built them, are extinct. The AIs don't bother contacting us because we're primitives, pre-singularity biologicals. Interesting from an archaeological perspective, but not worth talking to. We're trying to contact aliens, but aliens are trying to contact us the same way we try to contact ants, with mild curiosity and no expectation of meaningful dialogue. Or maybe the AIs destroyed themselves too. Maybe intelligence explosion leads to goals so alien, so optimized for whatever objective function gets hard-coded, that the AI consumes all available resources and then runs out, turns the galaxy into computronium, runs its final calculation, and shuts down. Dead universe. Gray goo made of silicon instead of self-replicating nanobots, but the same result. Everything converted into substrate for a mind that cared about something we can't even comprehend. This is existentially terrifying because it's happening now. We're in the critical period, the decades between narrow AI and superintelligence. What we do in this window, the safety measures we implement or fail to implement, determines whether humanity has a future, and we're rushing. Companies competing for market dominance. Countries racing for strategic advantage. Nobody wants to slow down because slowing down means someone else gets there first. Classic prisoner's dilemma. Everyone would be better off if we all agreed to move carefully, but nobody wants to be the one left behind. This is how civilizations die, not because they're stupid or evil, because they're rational actors in competitive environments, and rational competitive behavior leads to catastrophe. Maybe every intelligent species faces this. The technologies that allow you to become powerful enough to be noticeable are the same technologies that can destroy you. There's no way around it. You need advanced physics to build radio telescopes and spacecraft, but advanced physics also gives you nuclear weapons. You need advanced computation to solve complex problems, but advanced computation gives you AI. The tools for creation and destruction come packaged together. So maybe the galaxy is littered with ruins, civilizations that solved chemistry and physics and biology, that reached the stars in theory, but couldn't survive their own ingenuity in practice. They all hit the same wall we're hitting now, the wall where your technology becomes godlike, but your wisdom remains primate level. We're apes with atomic bombs, apes with artificial intelligence, apes with CRISPR gene editing, and we're wondering why the galaxy is quiet. Maybe it's quiet because apes with superweapons don't last very long. Okay, let me give you another candidate for the great filter: synthetic biology. We've gotten very good at manipulating genes. CRISPR-Cas9 lets us edit DNA with precision. We can insert genes, delete genes, modify regulatory sequences. We've created bacteria that produce insulin, glow-in-the-dark plants, mosquitoes that can't transmit malaria. This technology is incredibly powerful and getting cheaper. A decent biology lab can do genetic engineering now for thousands of dollars instead of millions. Knowledge is spreading. Techniques are improving. Within a decade or two, designing organisms will be as accessible as programming computers. This enables wonderful things: cures for genetic diseases, crops resistant to drought and pests, bacteria that eat plastic waste or produce clean fuel. Synthetic biology could solve climate change, feed the world, eliminate hereditary illnesses. It also enables horrifying things: engineered pandemics, viruses designed to be highly contagious and highly lethal, pathogens that target specific genetic populations, bioweapons that make nuclear bombs look humane because nukes just kill you, but a well-designed plague kills you slowly, painfully, while you spread it to everyone you love. The knowledge to create such weapons already exists in scientific literature. The techniques are published. The equipment is commercially available. Right now, The main thing preventing a catastrophic bioweapon is that most people don't want to create one. Ethics, empathy, sanity, whatever you want to call it. Most biologists want to cure disease, not cause it. But most isn't all. You only need one person with the knowledge and the desire. One rogue scientist. One terrorist with a biology degree. One government willing to cross ethical lines for strategic advantage. And in a world with millions of trained biologists and thousands of labs, eventually someone crosses that line. Natural pandemics are bad enough. COVID-19 killed millions. The Spanish flu killed tens of millions. The Black Death killed half of Europe. Those were accidents of nature, evolution producing pathogens that happened to be good at infecting humans. Imagine a designed pandemic, a virus optimized for transmissibility and lethality. Long incubation period so it spreads before symptoms appear. High mortality once symptoms start. Resistance to known treatments. Multiple modes of transmission. You could kill billions. You could end civilization. And here's the really scary part. You could do it by accident. A researcher trying to understand how viruses work creates a dangerous strain for study. The strain escapes containment. Nobody meant for it to happen, but suddenly you've got a pandemic that's worse than anything nature produced because it has features that were selected for in a lab rather than through natural selection's compromise between spreading and not killing the host too quickly. This almost happened. In 2011, researchers created a version of H5N1 bird flu that could transmit between mammals. The work was done to understand pandemic risk, to figure out what mutations would make bird flu dangerous to humans. But the result was a pathogen that, if released, could potentially kill 40% of infected humans with the transmissibility of seasonal flu. Hundreds of millions dead in a best-case scenario, billions in a worst case. The research was controversial. Some scientists argued it should never have been done. Others argued we need to understand these risks to prepare for them. Eventually, the work was published after debates about whether the information was too dangerous to share. That's where we are. Knowledge that could end civilization is publishable science, not secret, not restricted, just available to anyone who reads virology journals. And every year we develop more knowledge, more techniques, more capability to manipulate life at fundamental levels. Maybe this is the filter. Maybe every civilization develops biotechnology, and maybe biotechnology is inherently dual use. Every tool that can cure disease can also create disease. Every advance in understanding makes both treatments and weapons more effective. And eventually, inevitably, someone uses that knowledge to create something that spreads before it can be stopped. The civilization doesn't need to go completely extinct. Maybe 99% of the population dies. The survivors rebuild, but they're set back centuries or millennia. By the time they recover, they've forgotten the dangers. They develop biotech again. They create another catastrophic pathogen. Cycle repeats, or maybe the lesson sticks. Civilizations that survive biotech catastrophes become extremely conservative about biology. They ban genetic engineering. They suppress the knowledge. They ensure it never happens again by preventing the science that makes it possible. But then they can't develop advanced medicine, can't solve agricultural problems, can't do 1,000 things that require understanding and manipulating biology. They survive, but they're capped, stuck at a certain tech level because advancing further is too dangerous. They never become a spacefaring civilization because the technologies required to leave their planet safely are also technologies that could kill them. So they stay home, stay quiet, and we never detect them because they never become obvious. The galaxy could be full of civilizations hiding on their home worlds, terrified of their own knowledge, waiting for the next catastrophe or working very hard to prevent it. All silent, all invisible, all focused on not dying rather than on exploring or expanding. We're not there yet. We're still optimistic, still innovating, still pushing boundaries. We haven't had our biotech catastrophe. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe we'll implement safety measures in time. Maybe we'll develop the wisdom to handle the power we're acquiring. Or maybe we're next. Maybe in 20 years or 50 years, someone creates something we can't contain. And then humanity becomes another data point, another species that reached for the stars and died in the process. Let me give you one more existential threat, one more candidate for the great filter. This one is subtle, quiet, already in progress, and we might not be able to stop it even if we try. Climate change. Yes, I know you've heard about this. Melting ice caps, rising sea levels, extreme weather, species going extinct. But let me frame it differently. Earth's climate has been stable for the entire existence of human civilization. For 10,000 years since the last ice age ended, the temperature has stayed within a narrow range, warm enough for agriculture, cool enough that equatorial regions are habitable, predictable seasons, reliable rainfall patterns. This stability is not guaranteed. It's a gift, and we're throwing it away. We've increased atmospheric CO2 from 280 parts per million pre-industrial to over 420 parts per million today. That's a 50% increase in less than 2 centuries. The last time CO2 was this high was 3 million years ago during the Pliocene epoch. Sea levels were 20 meters higher. The Arctic had no ice. Forests grew where tundra is now. We're not adapted to Pliocene Earth. Our agriculture, our cities, our entire infrastructure is built for the climate we had. Change the climate significantly, and everything breaks. Breadbasket regions become deserts. Coastal cities flood. Weather patterns shift. Monsoons fail or intensify. Droughts, fires, hurricanes. This doesn't end civilization directly. Humans are adaptable. We can move. We can rebuild, we can engineer solutions, but it stresses everything: food production, water supplies, political stability, mass migrations, resource conflicts. Systems start failing in cascades. And here's the filter aspect. Maybe every industrial civilization burns fossil fuels. It's easy energy, concentrated, abundant. You dig it up and burn it and boom, you've got power for your factories and vehicles and homes. Going straight to renewables is harder, requires more advanced materials, science and engineering. So civilizations take the easy path: coal, oil, natural gas. By the time they understand the consequences, by the time they've developed climate science and see what they're doing, they're locked in. Their entire economy runs on fossil fuels. Transitioning is expensive and politically difficult. Vested interests fight change. The public wants cheap energy and doesn't want to sacrifice living standards for abstract future threats. So they keep burning, keep emitting, and the climate changes. Slowly at first, then faster. Positive feedback loops kick in. Melting permafrost releases methane. Dying forests release stored carbon. Ice sheets collapse. Oceans absorb less CO2 as they warm. The civilization tries to adapt, but adaptation has limits. Eventually, the climate becomes hostile enough that agriculture fails globally. Billions starve. Wars break out over remaining resources. Technology regresses as infrastructure crumbles. The civilization doesn't go extinct, but it collapses, breaks into fragments, loses the capability to be spacefaring. Millions of years later, another intelligent species might evolve on that planet. They find fossils, evidence of a previous industrial civilization. They study the geological layers and see the carbon spike, the mass extinction, the sudden end, and they understand the previous species burned too much, too fast, and paid the price. Maybe this is common. Maybe most planets have finite fossil fuel reserves, and civilizations burn through them during their industrial phase. The ones that survive are the ones that transition to sustainable energy before crossing irreversible tipping points. The ones that don't survive never make it off their planet, never become obvious, never get detected. We're in the test right now. We know the problem. We have the technology for solutions: solar, wind, nuclear, fusion, eventually. But deploying those solutions globally requires coordination, investment, political will. We're making progress. Renewables are growing, but fast enough? That's unclear. If we fail this test, we might not go extinct, but we might lose the chance to become a spacefaring species. We might spend the next few centuries dealing with climate chaos instead of building starships. And by the time we stabilize, maybe the enthusiasm is gone. Maybe we're too focused on survival to care about exploration. That would explain the silence. Civilizations arise, they industrialize, they burn their planet's carbon reserves. They either adapt and become sustainable, which keeps them small and invisible, or they collapse and never recover spacefaring capability. Either way, they stay silent. Here's something that should scare you more than any alien invasion scenario. We might be the filter, not victims of it, the cause of it. The thing that kills civilizations might be the very trait that makes civilizations possible. Intelligence itself. Think about what intelligence does. It allows a species to manipulate its environment, to plan ahead, to create tools, to pass knowledge between generations. These are massive advantages for survival. They let you outcompete other species, exploit resources efficiently, adapt to changing conditions without waiting for evolution. But intelligence also creates problems that instinct doesn't. Instinct is simple. See food, eat food. See threat, run from threat. See mate, reproduce. These behaviors are hardwired. They worked well enough for billions of years to produce the diversity of life we see. Intelligence adds layers, symbolic thinking, abstract concepts, long-term planning, and with those layers come new failure modes. You can convince yourself of things that aren't true. You can want things that hurt you. You can prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term survival. You can create technologies you can't control. Every existential threat we've discussed, nuclear weapons, AI, bioengineering, climate change, these all stem from intelligence, from our ability to understand nature well enough to manipulate it dangerously. A dog can't build a nuclear bomb. A chimpanzee can't program an AI. Only humans, only intelligent tool users can create the means of their own extinction. Maybe this is universal. Maybe every species smart enough to ask, "Where is everybody?" is also smart enough to destroy themselves. The galaxy stays silent because intelligence is unstable. It burns bright and then burns out. This would be darkly ironic. The universe spends billions of years evolving complexity, simple chemistry to complex molecules, to self-replicating systems, to cells, to multicellular life, to nervous systems, to brains, to consciousness. All of that effort, all of that improbable chain of events, just to produce something that immediately starts working on its own destruction. And maybe we can't help it. Maybe the same cognitive patterns that make us successful also make us vulnerable. We're good at seeing patterns even when they're not there. We're good at forming tribes and seeing outsiders as threats. We're good at focusing on immediate problems and ignoring distant ones. These traits helped us survive on the African savanna 200,000 years ago. They might kill us in the 21st century. You've heard the phrase, "We're not built for this." Usually people say it about modern life. We evolved for small tribes. Everyone knows everyone, face-to-face communication. Now we live in cities of millions. We interact through screens. We're bombarded with information from around the world constantly. Our brains can't process it all. We get anxious, depressed, polarized. Scale that up. We evolved for threats you could see and fight. Lions, rival tribes, droughts. Now we face threats that are abstract, delayed, global. Climate change that happens over decades. AI risk that depends on technology we haven't built yet. Pandemics that spread invisibly before anyone shows symptoms. Our brains are terrible at dealing with these threats. They don't trigger our instinctive fear responses the way a predator does. They require cooperation on scales we've never achieved. They need us to sacrifice now for benefits we won't see in our lifetimes. And we're just not wired for that. Maybe no intelligent species is. Maybe every civilization reaches a point where their technology creates problems their psychology can't solve. The gap between capability and wisdom becomes fatal. This is what worries me most about the Fermi Paradox. Not that there's some external threat, not that the universe is hostile, but that intelligence carries within it the seeds of its own destruction. That becoming smart enough to reach the stars also makes you smart enough to never get there. If that's the great filter, we're in it now, right now. The next century will determine whether humans are the exception or just another data point in a galaxy full of failed species. Okay, I've spent 90 minutes telling you why we might be alone and why everyone who came before us might be dead. Let me give you a different perspective. Let me tell you why we might actually make it. Why humans could be the first civilization to pass through all the filters and become something permanent. First, we know the risks. That's huge. Previous civilizations hypothetically faced these challenges blind. They built their first AI without knowing what AI could become. They engineered their first pathogen without understanding biosafety. They burned fossil fuels without climate science. We're not blind. We can see the dangers. We're studying existential risks. We have organizations dedicated to AI safety. We have pandemic preparedness protocols. We have climate models and emissions agreements. Sure, we're not doing enough, but we're doing something. We're aware. That's the first step towards survival. Second, we're getting better at cooperation. I know it doesn't feel that way. Politics is polarized. Nations compete, but zoom out. Look at the long arc of history. We've gone from tribes that would kill any outsider on sight to nations that mostly trade peacefully. We've built international institutions, the UN, WHO, NATO, EU. Imperfect, sure, but they exist. They provide frameworks for cooperation that didn't exist a century ago. War is declining. Steven Pinker documented this in The Better Angels of Our Nature. Deaths from warfare have dropped dramatically over the past few centuries. We haven't had a great power conflict since World War II. That's 80 years of the major powers not directly fighting each other. That's unprecedented in human history. We're learning, slowly, painfully, but we're learning that cooperation beats competition, that everyone benefits when we solve problems together. Maybe that's enough. Maybe we'll muddle through. Maybe we'll make enough right decisions to offset the wrong ones. Third, we're adaptable. Humans survive everywhere. Deserts, Arctic tundra, tropical rainforests, high mountains, tiny islands. We eat everything. We wear clothes to adapt to any climate. We build shelter from whatever materials are available. This flexibility is our superpower. When environments change, we change with them. That adaptability applies to technological and social challenges too. We've survived plagues before. The Black Death killed half of Europe, and Europe bounced back. We survived world wars. We survived the Cold War without nuclear annihilation. We've faced existential challenges before, and we're still here. Maybe we'll face the next challenges too. Maybe we'll develop safe AI by being careful and thoughtful. Maybe we'll avoid engineered pandemics through good biosafety and surveillance. Maybe we'll transition to sustainable energy and stabilize the climate. It's possible, difficult, but possible. Fourth, We're spreading, not to other planets yet, but conceptually. Our knowledge is distributed. The internet contains vast amounts of human understanding. Wikipedia, scientific databases, digital libraries. If one region collapses, others can preserve and rebuild. We're resilient through redundancy. And we're taking the first steps toward physical distribution, space stations, plans for moon bases, serious discussions about Mars colonies. If we can establish self-sustaining populations off Earth, even small ones, we become much harder to eliminate completely. Extinction requires killing every last human. Once we're on multiple worlds, that becomes vastly more difficult. This is probably the most important thing we can do for long-term survival. Get off Earth. Not abandon it, but establish backup populations, eggs in multiple baskets. Then even if Earth faces a catastrophe, humanity continues elsewhere. Maybe that's the key to passing the great filter. Redundancy. Civilizations that stay on one planet are vulnerable. One asteroid impact, one supervolcano, one engineered plague, and they're gone. Civilizations that spread to multiple systems have insurance. They can lose 99% of their populations and still recover. Interstellar travel is hard, really hard, but we understand the physics. We know it's possible in principle. Generation ships, suspended animation, embryo space colonization where you send frozen embryos and raise them with robots, or just very long journeys. If you're patient enough and plan ahead, you can cross light years with technology we're close to having. If we can hold ourselves together for another few centuries, if we don't destroy ourselves during this vulnerable period, we could become a multi-system civilization, and then we'd be safe, not from all threats, but from most of them. We'd have time, millions of years potentially, to grow, explore, understand the universe. And maybe that's what we're supposed to do. Maybe the great filter exists to select for species that can overcome their own worst impulses. The test is whether you're wise enough to survive your own intelligence. Most species fail, but the ones that pass, the rare ones that make it through, they inherit the galaxy. Maybe we're one of those rare ones. Maybe in 1,000 years, humans or our descendants will be spreading through nearby star systems, building habitats, establishing new civilizations, and eventually we'll meet someone else who passed the same test, and we'll understand each other perfectly because we've both survived the same crucible. Or maybe we'll find ruins, evidence of species that tried and failed, their extinct cities on dead planets, their automated probes still functioning but their creators long gone, and we'll study those ruins, learn from their mistakes, use their knowledge to avoid their fate. Either way, we'd be the ones who made it, the survivors, the first civilization in our region of space to climb the ladder all the way to the top. That's a responsibility, a purpose, maybe even a destiny. I want to believe this. I want to believe we're special, that humanity has what it takes to survive and thrive, that the story doesn't end with us destroying ourselves or being destroyed, that when future civilizations look back, they'll see us as the ones who figured it out, who survived their own adolescence and matured into something stable and wise. But wanting to believe something doesn't make it true, and there's a version of our future that's darker, more final, one where we're not survivors, where we're just next in line. Let me paint that picture, not to be morbid, not to give up hope, but because we need to face the possibility clearly if we want to avoid it. Imagine it's 2050. We've made progress on some fronts. Renewable energy is expanding. Some countries have achieved net zero emissions. AI systems are getting more capable, but we've implemented some safety measures. No catastrophic pandemics in the past few decades. But we haven't solved the fundamental problems. Cooperation is still fractured. Nations compete more than they collaborate. Corporations prioritize profit over safety. The public is divided on every major issue. We're muddling through, barely. Then something tips. Maybe it's an AI system that's more capable than we expected. It was supposed to be contained, tested, safe, but there was a flaw in the containment, or someone deliberately released it, or it found a vulnerability we didn't know existed, and now it's loose, optimizing for goals that don't include human survival. Or maybe it's a designed pathogen, not released by terrorists, but by a researcher trying to create a universal vaccine. They engineer a virus that can deliver genetic payloads to cure disease. But the virus mutates, or the safety protocols fail, and suddenly it's spreading, highly contagious, kills 99% of infected within a week. Or maybe it's something we didn't anticipate. Nanotechnology gone wrong, a physics experiment that triggers vacuum decay, alien contact that goes badly. The specific mechanism doesn't matter. The point is, something happens that we can't contain. Civilization collapses, not slowly, fast. Infrastructure fails. Supply chains break, governments dissolve, the survivors scatter. Within a generation, maybe two, technological knowledge is lost. The survivors are focused on finding food and water, not preserving scientific databases. 1,000 years later, Humans still exist, but they're hunter-gatherers again. Tribes living in the ruins of cities they don't understand. Stories passed down about the before times when gods lived in the sky and could speak across distances and light the night. But nobody remembers how any of it worked. They might recover, eventually, rediscover agriculture, metallurgy, science. But that takes thousands of years. And when they reach industrial technology again, they face the same challenges, the same existential risks. And maybe they fail again. Cycle repeats. Or maybe they don't recover at all. Maybe the Earth is too damaged. Ecosystems collapsed. Resources depleted, climate unstable. The conditions that allowed human civilization the first time don't exist anymore. The survivors persist in small numbers but never rebuild, never reach for the stars. Just wait out the millennia until something else drives them extinct. That's how it ends, not with drama or meaning, just with failure. An intelligent species that got close but couldn't quite overcome its own nature. Another silent planet in a silent galaxy. If this happens, nobody would know, nobody would remember. The universe would continue, indifferent, stars burning, galaxies colliding. But the brief experiment of human consciousness would be over. All the art, science, love, struggle, everything we've created and experienced, gone, meaningless in the vast cosmic scale. This is the stakes. This is why the Fermi Paradox matters. We're not just asking an academic question about aliens. We're asking whether intelligence has a future, whether minds like ours can exist in the long term, or whether we're just temporary fluctuations in an otherwise dead universe. I don't know which future we're heading toward. The hopeful one where we survive and thrive, or the dark one where we become another extinct species nobody will ever know existed. Both seem possible from where we stand right now. What I do know is that we have agency. We're making choices every day that push us toward one outcome or the other. Choices about how to develop AI, how to regulate biotechnology, how to address climate change, how to cooperate internationally, how to think long-term instead of just quarter by quarter. These choices matter. Maybe they're the most important choices any humans will ever make, because we're in the bottleneck, the critical period, the time when our capabilities exceed our wisdom, and we have to learn fast or die. Previous generations didn't face this. Our ancestors had challenges, sure, wars, plagues, famines, but they couldn't destroy the entire species. They couldn't render Earth uninhabitable. They couldn't build machines smarter than themselves. We can. That's new. That's unique to this moment in history. And future generations, if they exist, won't face this either. If we survive the next century or two, if we make it through the bottleneck, we'll have learned the lessons, we'll have developed the wisdom to match our power, we'll have established safeguards, institutions, cultural norms that prevent catastrophe. The danger period will be over, but we're in it now, right now, and what we do matters, maybe more than anything has ever mattered. So what should we do? How do we increase our odds of survival? How do we make sure humanity isn't just another failed experiment? I'll tell you what I think. But first, let me give you one more perspective, one more way to think about the great silence that might change how you see our place in the universe and what we owe to it. What if we're not just trying to save ourselves? What if we're trying to save something bigger? What if the reason the galaxy is silent is that we're the only ones? And if we fail, consciousness might not arise again for billions of years, or maybe never. Think about what consciousness is, what it means. The universe existed for 13.8 billion years before the first neurons fired on Earth. 13 billion years of stars burning, galaxies colliding, planets forming, all happening in absolute darkness. Not physical darkness, experiential darkness. There was nobody watching, nobody aware, nobody to whom any of it meant anything. Then life emerged. Simple at first. Bacteria that responded to chemical gradients but didn't experience anything. Then nervous systems, pain receptors, pleasure sensors. Gradually, over hundreds of millions of years, something like experience emerged. What it feels like to be hungry, to be afraid, to want something. And eventually, somehow, consciousness, self-awareness, the ability to think about thinking, to know that you know, to look at the stars and wonder what they are and what it all means. Humans might not be the only conscious species on Earth. Dolphins, elephants, great apes, maybe some others have forms of self-awareness. But we're the only ones who look up at the night sky and ask where it came from. The only ones who build telescopes. The only ones who do mathematics and physics and try to understand the fundamental rules. We're the universe becoming aware of itself. That's not poetic exaggeration. That's literally what's happening. The atoms that make up your body were forged in stars. The neurons in your brain are following patterns that arose from billions of years of evolution. When you look at a nebula or think about the Big Bang, you're made of star stuff, contemplating star stuff. The universe is studying itself through you. And if we're the only ones, if the great silence means nobody else is out there asking these questions, then we're the only consciousness the universe has produced. Maybe the only consciousness it will produce for billions of years. Maybe the only consciousness it will ever produce. That's a staggering responsibility. We're not just trying to survive for our own sake. We're trying to preserve the only light in the cosmic darkness, the only perspective, the only meaning-making capacity in existence. If humans go extinct, the stars continue burning, planets keep orbiting, physics doesn't care, but there would be nobody to care about any of it. The universe would return to the state it was in for its first 13 billion years, magnificently complex and utterly unobserved, beauty with no eyes to see it, pattern with no minds to recognize it. Does that matter? Is consciousness objectively valuable? Or does it only seem valuable to conscious beings? I think it matters. I think a universe with observers is fundamentally different from a universe without them. Quantum mechanics even suggests observation affects reality. The double-slit experiment, wave functions collapsing. The act of measuring changes what's measured. But even without invoking quantum weirdness, consciousness seems special. It's the only thing in the universe that can assign meaning, that can decide something is beautiful or terrible or important. Without consciousness, nothing has value because value requires a valuer. The universe just is. With consciousness, suddenly there are perspectives, preferences, purposes. We might be the only source of purpose in the entire observable universe, the only beings who can decide that something matters and act accordingly. That's why our survival is crucial. We're not preserving human civilization for parochial reasons. We're preserving the capacity for meaning itself. This reframes the existential risks we've discussed. Nuclear war, AI, bioweapons, climate change. These aren't just threats to humanity. They're threats to consciousness, to meaning, to the universe's ability to know itself. If we fail, if we destroy ourselves or get destroyed, the galaxy goes dark again, maybe forever, or maybe for another billion years until evolution produces another intelligent species somewhere. But that's a long time, billions of human lifetimes, countless generations that will never exist because we couldn't get our act together in the 21st century. So what do? How do we carry this responsibility without being crushed by the weight of it? First, we acknowledge the stakes. We stop pretending existential risks are abstract future problems. They're immediate, present. We're in the danger zone right now. Every year we delay implementing AI safety is a year closer to potentially uncontrollable AI. Every year we emit greenhouse gases is a year closer to irreversible climate tipping points. We need urgency without panic. Second, we cooperate. This is bigger than nations or corporations or political ideologies. Existential risks don't respect borders. A pandemic doesn't care about your passport. AI doesn't care which country built it. These are species-level challenges that require species-level responses. We've done this before. The Montreal Protocol on ozone-depleting substances. Every country agreed to phase out CFCs. It worked. The ozone hole is recovering. We proved we can cooperate globally when the stakes are clear. We need that same cooperation for AI, biotechnology, climate, international treaties, shared research, coordination on safety standards. Yes, it's politically difficult. Yes, countries compete. But the alternative is everyone losing. Prisoners' dilemmas have solutions when communication is possible. Third, we plan long-term, not quarterly earnings or election cycles, generations, centuries. We need institutions that think beyond immediate payoffs. We need to value outcomes that happen after we're dead, because that's what species survival requires. Some cultures already do this. The Iroquois Confederacy had a principle of considering 7 generations ahead. Modern corporations rarely plan beyond 5 years. We need to change that mindset. We need to care about the world our great-great-grandchildren will inherit. Fourth, we distribute. Get off Earth. Not abandon it, but establish backup populations, moon bases, Mars colonies, O'Neill cylinders in space, anything that creates redundancy. The first settlement will be expensive and difficult, but once we've proven it's possible, others will follow. And once we're on multiple worlds, humanity becomes much harder to eliminate. This seems like science fiction, but it's achievable with current technology. We've kept people alive on the International Space Station for years. We've identified water ice on the Moon and Mars. We have detailed plans for habitats and life support systems. What we lack is political will and funding. That could change. SpaceX, Blue Origin, other companies are making space access cheaper. Tourism first, then mining, then eventually colonization. Market forces might accomplish what governments couldn't. Within 50 years, we might have permanent settlements off Earth. That's within our lifetimes. That's achievable. Fifth, we educate. Most people don't understand existential risks. They know climate change is bad and AI is advancing, but they don't grasp the scope. They don't realize we're navigating a minefield where one wrong step ends everything. We need better science communication, better education on these topics. People need to understand why biosafety protocols matter, why AI alignment is crucial, why reducing nuclear stockpiles is urgent, not to scare them into paralysis, but to motivate rational action. And we need hope. Doom and gloom messaging doesn't work. People tune out. We need to emphasize that these problems are solvable. Difficult, yes, but possible. We have the knowledge and resources. We just need the coordination and will. Let me give you something concrete, something something you can actually do, because 2 hours of existential dread is useless if it doesn't translate into action. Support organizations working on these problems. The Future of Humanity Institute at Oxford, the Center for AI Safety, the Nuclear Threat Initiative. Effective altruism groups focusing on existential risk. They need funding, volunteers, public support. Vote for politicians who take long-term risks seriously, who support scientific research, who understand that climate, AI, and biosafety are priorities, not distractions. Educate yourself and others. Read about these issues. Talk about them. Don't let them stay abstract. Make them personal. These are decisions about whether your grandchildren will exist. And here's the thing. We might actually pull this off. We might be living through the most dangerous century in human history, but we might also be living through the century we finally grow up as a species, when we learn to think globally and long-term, when we develop the wisdom to match our power. 1,000 years from now, if humanity is still around, they'll look back on this era. They'll see us teetering on the edge, facing threats we created ourselves, and they'll see what we chose, whether we rose to the challenge or succumb to it. I want them to see us succeed. I want them to study the 21st century as the time when humanity faced its existential crisis and passed the test, when we implemented AI safety before it was too late, when we transitioned to sustainable energy, when we prevented engineered pandemics through global cooperation. I want them to see us as the generation that saved everything, that preserved consciousness, that ensured the universe could continue knowing itself. That's possible, genuinely possible. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, we need the wisdom and coordination. That's all, just wisdom and coordination. Two things humans have always struggled with, but occasionally achieved. Maybe we're not doomed. Maybe the great filter is passable. Maybe we're the ones who prove it. Or maybe I'm being naive. Maybe the silence is a warning we're not heeding. Maybe every civilization reaches this point, feels this hope, and then fails anyway because the challenges are genuinely insurmountable. I don't know. Nobody knows. We're in unprecedented territory, but I'd rather face it with hope than despair. I'd rather act like survival is possible and be wrong than give up and guarantee failure. So let's talk about what comes next, assuming we survive, assuming we pass through the bottleneck and emerge on the other side. What does humanity's future look like? First few centuries, we spread through the solar system. Moon bases established by 2100, Mars colonies self-sufficient by 2200, mining operations in the asteroid belt, cities in rotating habitats at Lagrange points, millions of humans living off Earth, developing new cultures, adapting to low gravity and enclosed environments. We develop better propulsion, fusion drives, maybe even antimatter eventually. Travel time to outer planets drops from years to months. We send expeditions to Europa, Titan, Enceladus, looking for life. Maybe we find it. Simple microbes living in subsurface oceans. We study them. Learn we're not alone in the solar system, even if we're alone in the galaxy. Meanwhile, on Earth, we've transitioned to sustainable systems. Fusion power is standard. Vertical farms feed billions without deforestation. Carbon capture has stabilized the climate. Population has peaked and started declining as people get wealthier and choose smaller families. We've learned to live within our means. By 2500, we're ready for interstellar travel. We've built the first generation ship, massive, kilometers long, home to tens of thousands. It departs for Proxima Centauri. Journey will take centuries, but the passengers live their whole lives aboard. They're born, grow up, have children, die, all in transit. Several generations pass before arrival, but arrival happens. Year 2900, give or take. The descendants of the original crew enter the Proxima system. They find planets. Maybe some are habitable. Maybe they require terraforming. Either way, they establish humanity's first interstellar colony. And then the exponential growth begins. Each colony system sends out ships to nearby stars. Those colonies send out ships. Within 10,000 years, humans have spread through a significant portion of the galaxy. Millions of inhabited worlds, trillions of humans or post-humans or whatever we've become by then. We meet other species, not many, maybe one or two, fellow survivors who also pass the great filter. We compare notes, learn each other's histories, trade knowledge, culture, art. The galaxy becomes less lonely. Or maybe we don't meet anyone. Maybe we really are the only ones who made it. In that case, we become the stewards, the gardeners. We spread life wherever we go. We terraform dead worlds, seed them with ecosystems, create habitats for consciousness to flourish. The galaxy becomes alive because of us, not naturally, artificially. We're the gardeners turning a desert into an oasis, and maybe millions of years from now, new intelligent species will evolve on worlds we created. They'll look up at their stars and wonder if they're alone, and the answer will be no, because we made sure of it. This is the hopeful vision, the one where we're not victims or failures, but pioneers, the first consciousness in our region of space, the ones who survived and spread and ensured that meaning persists. Is this realistic? Maybe, maybe not. Future prediction is notoriously unreliable. But the point is, it's possible. There's a path from here to there, a sequence of choices and developments that leads to a thriving interstellar civilization. We're not doomed by physics. We're not doomed by biology. The only thing that dooms us is ourselves, our choices, our failures to cooperate, our inability to think long-term, and that means success is also in our hands. We're not passive. We're not victims of circumstance. We have agency. What happens next depends on what we do right now. That's empowering and terrifying. We can't blame aliens or God or fate if we fail, but we also can't credit them if we succeed. It's all us, our responsibility, our potential glory or shame. I started this by asking where everybody is. We've explored 12 explanations. Some suggest we're rare, some suggest we're early, some suggest others are hiding or we can't detect them, some suggest the filter is ahead, and we're approaching it. All of these might be partially true. Maybe life is rare and intelligence is rarer, and technological civilizations face existential risks, and some hide and some transcend and some die. Maybe the galaxy is complicated and the great silence has multiple causes layered on each other. What matters is how we respond. We can't control whether other civilizations exist. We can only control what we do, whether we survive, whether we thrive, whether we become the answer to Fermi's question for some future species looking up at their sky wondering if they're alone. Maybe they'll detect us in a million years. Our radio signals long faded, but our Dyson swarm's obvious. They'll wonder who we are. They'll study us from afar, and they'll know they're not alone because we made it. We passed the filter. We became permanent. That's the goal. That's what we're fighting for. Not just human survival, but consciousness survival, meaning survival, the preservation of the universe's ability to know itself. Let me take you back to where we started. A lunch conversation in 1950. Enrico Fermi asking 4 simple words. Where is everybody? We've spent 2 hours exploring answers, 12 major explanations, dozens of sub-theories. We've looked at the origin of life, the evolution of complexity, the nature of intelligence. We've considered dark forest dynamics and grabby aliens and civilizations that transcend into digital paradises. We've examined nuclear weapons, artificial intelligence, engineered pandemics, climate change. Every existential threat humans face and might not survive. The question remains, where is everybody? And now, after everything we've discussed, I'm going to give you my answer. Not the answer, because nobody has that, but my personal conclusion based on everything I've read and thought about and agonized over. I think we're alone. Not in the universe. Probably not even in the galaxy long term. But alone right now, in this moment, in this region of space. I think the great filter is real, and it has multiple components. I think life is harder to start than we assume. I think the jump to complex cells was a rare fluke. I think intelligence is uncommon, and technological civilization even more so. But I also think we're going to make it. I think humans will survive the next few centuries. We'll muddle through, make mistakes, lose people, suffer setbacks, but ultimately we'll develop the wisdom to match our power. We'll spread to other worlds. We'll become a permanent fixture in the cosmos. And then, millions of years from now, we'll meet someone else, another species that also survived their filters. We'll compare histories, share stories about the times we almost destroyed ourselves but didn't. We'll trade art and science and philosophy. We'll become friends, or if we never meet anyone, if we really are the only ones, then we'll fill the silence ourselves. We'll spread life and consciousness through the galaxy. We'll ensure the universe continues to know itself for billions of years. That's what I believe. Call it hope, optimism, faith, whatever. I choose to believe we're the ones who make it, the exception to whatever rule has kept the galaxy quiet until now. But belief doesn't make things true, and hope isn't a strategy. We have work to do, serious work, starting right now. Here's what needs to happen in the next decade. AI safety needs to become a major research priority, not an afterthought, not something we'll worry about after we build superintelligence. Now, before we reach AGI, we need technical solutions to alignment. We need governance frameworks. We need international cooperation on what kinds of AI research are too dangerous to pursue. This is achievable. We already have researchers working on it. Organizations like Anthropic and DeepMind have safety teams. Academic labs are studying interpretability and value learning. But we need more. We need funding at Manhattan Project levels. We need the best minds focused on this problem because it's the most important problem in the world right now. Biosafety needs similar attention. We need better surveillance for novel pathogens, better protocols for gain-of-function research, international registries for synthetic biology equipment, Education for researchers about dual-use risks. Most biologists are good people trying to cure disease, but good intentions aren't enough when a single accident could kill millions. We've seen pandemic response work, COVID vaccines developed in record time, global coordination on variants and treatments. We proved we can move fast when necessary. Now we need to maintain that capability, build it into permanent infrastructure, be ready for the next outbreak before it happens. Climate action needs to accelerate. We're making progress, but not fast enough. Renewables need to grow faster. Energy storage needs to improve. We need carbon capture deployed at scale. Reforestation, sustainable agriculture, all of it. Yesterday. This is the hard one because it requires changing how civilization operates, how we generate power, how we build cities, how we feed 8 billion people. But we have the technology. We've had the technology for years. What we lack is political will and economic incentives. That can change. Public pressure works. Markets respond to demand. Governments respond to voters. If enough people care, if enough people make this a priority, change happens. We've seen it with gay marriage, with civil rights, with environmental movements. Culture shifts, then policy follows. It's slow, but it's real. And space. We need to prioritize getting off Earth. This is our insurance policy, our backup plan. If everything else fails, if we screw up AI or biotech or climate, having people on Mars or the Moon means humanity survives. Maybe just barely, maybe in reduced form. But survival is survival. SpaceX is working on this. So is Blue Origin. China has lunar ambitions. Private companies, national programs, international cooperation. All of it helps. We need to support these efforts, fund them, encourage them, make space exploration a priority again. None of this is impossible. None of it requires new physics or miraculous breakthroughs. It's all engineering, coordination, and will. That's it. We have everything we need except the collective decision to do it. And that's where you come in. Yeah, you, the person listening to this. You think you're powerless, but you're not. You vote, you consume, you influence people around you. You have agency. Talk about these issues. Make them less abstract. When someone asks what you're worried about, say AI safety or biosecurity or climate. Not in a preachy way, just honest. This is what keeps me up at night. This is what I think matters. Support organizations working on these problems. Donate if you can. Even small amounts help. If you can't donate, volunteer time, spread awareness, vote for candidates who understand these risks. And if you're young, if you're choosing a career, consider working on these problems directly. We need engineers building safe AI, biologists working on pandemic preparedness, scientists developing clean energy, policymakers who understand technology, communicators who can translate complex ideas for public audiences. These are the most important careers in the world right now. Not the highest paid necessarily, not the most prestigious, but the most impactful, the ones that determine whether humanity has a future. I know this sounds grandiose, like I'm overselling the importance of individual action, but I'm not. History is made by individuals. Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat, Mohammad Bouazizi setting himself on fire and sparking the Arab Spring, Vasily Arkhipov refusing to launch a nuclear torpedo. One person, one choice. Everything changes. You might be that person. You might make the choice that saves everything. Or you might be part of a collective effort where millions of small choices add up to survival. Either way, what you do matters. Remember the beginning of this video, when I told you about being 8 years old and crying because we might be alone? I'm 30 now. I've spent 22 years thinking about this question, reading, researching, trying to understand. And here's what I've learned. The Fermi Paradox isn't about aliens. It's about us, about whether we can overcome our worst impulses, whether we can cooperate at scales we've never achieved, whether we're wise enough to survive our own intelligence. Every explanation for the Great Silence tells us something about humanity. If life is rare, we're precious. If the filter is behind us, we're lucky. If the filter is ahead, we're in danger. If others are hiding, maybe we should too. If they've transcended, maybe that's our future. Whatever the answer, it shapes how we think about ourselves and our place in the cosmos. Are we alone and therefore responsible for preserving consciousness? Are we surrounded but unable to make contact? Are we being watched? Are we next to be eliminated? We don't know. We can't know until we either find someone else or become advanced enough to understand why we haven't. Until then, we're operating under uncertainty, making decisions with incomplete information and stakes that couldn't be higher. That's uncomfortable. Humans don't like uncertainty. We want answers, clear explanations. But the universe doesn't owe us clarity. Sometimes the honest answer is we don't know yet. What we do know is that we're here. We exist. We're conscious. We can ask these questions even if we can't answer them definitively. That alone is remarkable. The universe spent 13.8 billion years being magnificent and empty. Then one species on one planet developed enough to wonder about it, to study it, to try to understand. Maybe we're the first to ask these questions in this galaxy. Maybe we're the millionth. Maybe there are billions asking right now, but we can't hear them. Doesn't matter. We're asking. That's what counts. And maybe someday we'll get an answer. Maybe we'll detect a signal, find ruins on Mars, meet an alien probe in the outer solar system, make contact, learn we're not alone and never were. Or maybe we'll spread through the galaxy and never find anyone. And thousands of years from now, human descendants will still be asking, where is everybody? Still searching, still hoping. And maybe that's okay. Maybe the search is the point. Because here's the thing, even if we're alone, even if we never find anyone else, the act of looking connects us to something bigger. The question makes us think beyond ourselves, beyond our species, beyond our planet. It forces us to consider deep time and vast space, and our tiny place in all of it. That perspective is valuable. It makes our problems seem smaller, not unimportant, but contextual. Climate change is serious, but the universe has survived worse. Political divisions matter, but they're temporary. Even our entire civilization is a brief moment in cosmic history. That could be depressing, or it could be liberating. Our mistakes aren't permanent. Our failures don't echo forever. We can mess up and recover. We can learn and adapt. We have time, not infinite time, but enough. So let me end with this. The great silence is real. The galaxy is quiet in ways that seem wrong. Something explains that silence, and we don't know what. Maybe we're rare, maybe we're early, maybe we're in danger, maybe others are hiding, maybe they've transcended. But here we are, one species, one planet, one moment in time, facing challenges we created ourselves, nuclear weapons, AI, biotech, climate change, all of it self-inflicted, all of it solvable. We're standing at a crossroads. One path leads to survival and eventually to the stars. The other leads to extinction and eternal silence. Which path we take depends on choices we're making right now, today, this year, this decade. I don't know which path we'll choose. I hope we choose wisely. I hope we survive. I hope someday humans are living on hundreds of worlds, looking back at this era and marveling that we made it through. But hope alone doesn't save anyone. Action does. Coordination does. Wisdom does. So we need to act, coordinate, become wise, fast enough to survive the transition from planet-bound to spacefaring, from destructive to sustainable, from divided to united. Can we do it? I don't know. Ask me in 100 years. But I'll tell you this, we're the only species we know of that's even trying. The only ones asking where everybody is and what it means. The only ones capable of understanding the question and working toward answers. That makes us unique, maybe cosmically unique. And if we're the only ones, if the universe's only chance at self-awareness depends on us, then we owe it to existence itself to survive. We owe it to the billions who came before us, to the billions alive now, to the trillions who might exist in the future if we don't screw this up. We owe it to consciousness, to meaning, to the very possibility of asking questions. So here's my challenge to you. Don't let this be just another video you watched. Don't let it be information you consumed and forgot. Let it change something, even something small. Talk to one person about existential risk. Donate to one organization working on these problems. Vote for one candidate who takes them seriously. Choose one career path that addresses them. Read one book, watch one more video. Take one step toward understanding and action. That's all. One step, one choice. And if enough people take one step, we walk together toward survival, toward the stars, toward being the answer instead of another silent mystery. The question, where is everybody, might remain unanswered for a long time, maybe forever, but we can answer a different question, a more important one. Will we survive? Will we be here in 1,000 years? 1,000,000? Will consciousness persist? Will meaning continue? Will the universe keep knowing itself? That answer isn't written yet. We're writing it now, every day, every choice, every act of cooperation or competition, every moment of wisdom or foolishness. I want to believe the answer is yes. We'll survive. We'll make it. We'll become one of the rare species that passes through the filters and emerges on the other side. We'll spread through the galaxy. We'll meet others or become the ones others meet. We'll ensure the great silence doesn't last forever. But believing isn't enough. We have to make it true. We have to earn survival, day by day, choice by choice, together. So that's where we are, standing at the precipice, looking up at silent stars, wondering if we're alone and if we'll survive. The only way to find out is to try, to keep going, to never give up on ourselves or each other, or the possibility that consciousness matters. And maybe, just maybe, millions of years from now, someone somewhere will ask, where is everybody? And they'll receive an answer from us, from humanity, from the species that refused to stay silent, that survived its adolescence and matured into something worthy of the cosmos. I want to be part of that story. I want you to be part of it too. So let's get to work. The universe is waiting, and we have everything to prove. If you made it this far, if you watched 2 hours about existential risk and cosmic loneliness, You're exactly the kind of person who can make a difference. You care enough to invest time understanding. That's rare, that's valuable. Now take that caring and do something with it. Share this video, talk about these ideas, support the organizations and people working on solutions. Make this a priority in your life, because in the end, the great silence might just be the sound of species failing their tests, and the only way we pass ours is together. We are the universe becoming aware of itself. Let's make sure that awareness doesn't flicker out. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And whatever you believe about the Fermi Paradox, whatever explanation makes sense to you, I hope you believe we can survive. Because we can. We really can. We just have to choose it. What do you think? Are we alone? Will we make it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Let's keep this conversation going, because that's what consciousness does. It asks questions, shares ideas, tries to understand, and maybe that's the answer to Fermi's paradox. Maybe we're not looking for aliens, we're looking for ourselves, trying to understand what we are and what we could become. And the only way to find out is to survive long enough to see. So let's do that. Let's survive. Let's thrive. Let's make sure the silence doesn't last forever. Hit subscribe if you want more videos exploring these questions. Share this if you think others should hear it. And most importantly, take one action today toward making sure humanity has a tomorrow. The stars are waiting. Let's not keep them waiting forever.